Welcome, my friends, to this very quick discussion about earned value. We got a question from one of our subscribers about ETC in particular. Now, earned value is very vast, but you often hear it being referred to as EVM, which just means earned value management. Earned value management is a way of you effectively managing and controlling the cost, the schedule, and the scope. And the way it works is there are four overarching metrics that you need to derive from three variables. The three variables are planned value, actual cost, and earned value. So planned value, this is pretty much what you plan to get done within a time box. Actual cost is the actual cost that you spent in getting the work done. And earned value, we refer to this as the work actually done. Let me show you a very quick idea here. Let's say we are working on painting this wall, and because it's such a huge wall, you break it down into four quadrants. And your plan is as follows. Your plan is on day one, I'll do this, on day two, that, on day three, that, and on day four, that. And then management asks you, how much will this cost you? And then you do a detailed budget, and you find that for day one, it's going to cost you $10 to paint. On day two, it's going to cost you $10. Day three, $10, and day four, $10. These monies are known as the planned value. So the planned value for day one is $10. The planned value for day two is $10. The planned value for day three is also $10. And the planned value for day four is also $10. If we add up planned value 1 plus planned value 2 plus planned value 3 and planned value 4, the total is what we call the budget at completion. So we have $10 for each of these days. You add them all up, you are going to get $40. And that is your budget at completion. That means when you get done with this project, your budget should not exceed $40 total. Okay? Now, assuming this project began. As the project begins, suppose on day one, at the end, instead of you getting all the work done, you only got the shaded area done. The question then is, what percentage of work have you accomplished? Because you will use that percentage of work to understand the earned value. You see, earned value is what you actually accomplished. So let's put a few tags on this. Earned value is what was done. The value, right? What was done. Planned value is what was planned. See that? And actual cost is what was spent. Three variables. What was planned, what was spent, and what was done. So when we go over to this example of what happened really on the project, we already know that what was planned was $10 worth of work. And we know that what was planned was the entire area. The entire area was planned, but when you boil it down, the entire area wasn't done. So, math minds in the room, tell me what percentage was completed? The answer is 75%. This is 3 quadrants out of 4, which is 3 out of 4, 75%. Okay? So we know that 75% of the work was done. And if we know the value of the entire work, the planned value was $10, then the earned value is going to be the percent complete times the planned value. Percent complete times planned value gives you earned value. So if we take that understanding and we say earned value is equal to 75% of $10, we get $7.50. So your earned value for day one is $7.50. So we have a planned value, we have an earned value, which is $7.50. And then the final variable, let's go back to the beginning. The final variable, as you can see here, is actual cost. What was spent? And what was spent is generally given to you in the question. That's right. Now, if it's not given to you in the question, there is a way of you working it based on whatever variables you're given. But for the sake of this illustration, we are going to say, assume the question gives you the actual cost. And it says, at the end of day one, you have spent $12. Now you can juxtapose these three variables. What was planned was $10 worth of work. What was done is $7.50. Think about it. You promised you were going to get $10 worth of work done, but you only got $7.50 done. You are behind schedule. Think about it. Just compare these two, just these two. Let's go to a blank place on the screen and put all these so that you can really ponder on what this means. Okay. So we have planned value and we have earned value. Planned value, $10. Earned value, $7.50. And then the actual cost, and this is day one. Day one. Actual cost is $12. So if you compare, this is always going to be in the center. Earned value is the center of discussion. And if earned value is lower than any of the others, planned value is from a schedule perspective. All right? You can also look at it from a scope perspective. Because when you look at planned value, if you have done only the scope that you were supposed to, you can tell that you have all this scope that wasn't done but was promised. You have $2.50 of scope that hasn't been done. And when I say scope, we're referring to the measurable work. Now, when you look at the actual cost, from a cost perspective, when you compare this to this, you can tell, wow, I got $7.50 of work, but I spent $12. So right off the bat, just using common sense, if the work done, remember the metrics, planned, let's use this for planned, this is for done, and this is for spent. It's a common sense thing. And once you get this, whenever you look at these metrics on your exam, you will always understand what the state of the project is. Because if earned value is lower than any of these two, it's unfavorable. If it's equal, then you're right on target. You get what I'm saying? And for that reason, we have these metrics that we use to further understand these numbers. And the metrics are as follows. I'm going to erase all of this and just show you real quick. So we have the cost performance index. We have the schedule performance index. We have the cost variance, and we have the schedule variance. All right, pay close attention. This is where it gets interesting. So all of these metrics, whether it's CPI or SPI or CV or SV, they all begin with a statement that says earned value, earned value, earned value, earned value. If we are talking about an index, we are surely going to divide. You know that from basic maths, those of you who recall. Indices are always something divided by something else. For variances, it is always one number minus another. So for the indices, we divide. For the variances, we subtract. Now watch this. Where we have a C for cost, the variable that goes in is actual cost. So we put actual cost here and actual cost here. When we're dealing with the schedule, because remember I said the schedule is the planned value, what you planned, right? We put the planned value anywhere we have the S. And those are your 4 core metrics, or your 4 derivative metrics that you got from these 3 core metrics. So you can say this is core because that's the base, and these guys are derivative. Those are your derivative metrics. When I used this stuff back in the day at Honeywell, every Tuesday we would give an account of our SPIs, our CPIs, our CVs, and our SVs. But we didn't stop there. We had to provide even more information. And some of the other metrics that we used were the estimate at completion and the to complete performance index. And very simply put, the EAC is just the actual cost plus the estimate to complete. Simply put, there are 4 EAC formulas, but I want to keep it very simple and distill it down to its bare common sense. Estimate at completion. This just says when all is said and done, how much would you have spent based on today's conditions? See that? EAC is based on today's conditions. So this is one of the metrics management always wanted us to present. How much money will you have spent when all is said and done? And the way you get that is you look at the actual cost, which you already know about, the actual cost to date, and then the other metric, estimate to completion. You could look at this as a brand new bottom-up estimate. Like if your project is so far off and you cannot use any of the estimates you had before, you can use a brand new bottom-up, ETC. And all that means is you got to go down to the granular levels and say, based on what is happening today, for example, this project of ours, based on the fact that we were delayed and we didn't get all the work done, but we spent $12 for whatever reason, our estimates are no longer solid and we have to do a brand new bottom-up ETC. You get it? So the idea is for EAC, all roads are going to lead to you understanding the actual cost and you also understanding the estimate to complete. So to my friend who asked the original question, which spurred this video, the estimate to complete is a metric. It's a forecasted metric of how much more money do we need to complete the project from today. So if you go back to our example, we take a look and we say, okay, the state of affairs is we've spent $12 We originally said we are going to spend $40, but if we do a brand new bottom-up ETC, even if everything went well, we're definitely going to spend a 10, a 10, a 10, and we're going to spend $2.50 extra. And we've already spent $12. Even if all goes well, this will still take us the original 250. We've already spent 12, so you do the addition: 10, 20, 30, 42, 44, 50. At the very best case scenario. Now, if we look at a worst case scenario, we could say, well, we spent $12 and we didn't get done. And if we look at the rate of spend and we say each quadrant we spend $4, we can say we're not going to spend 250, we're going to spend 4 for this. So your estimate could then be, well, $16 for each quadrant times 4 is 64. Are you getting the idea? So the idea is to look at the current state, and based on your current state, you understand what your end state will be. And EAC is your end state. Now, for that reason, on top of the EAC, we talk about something called the VAC, the variance at completion. And the variance at completion just means you're saying the original budget minus whatever the EAC will be. See? V equals B. It's a quick way of remembering it. Now, if that's the case, just looking at our original example, we say our variance at completion, let's say we go with a higher number. We can say the variance at completion is going to be that $40 that we estimated in the beginning, the original budget at completion, minus 64. Let's just say we go with 64 for worst case scenario, $64. Then you're going to have a negative variance. Your variance at completion is going to be minus $24. And these are the numbers management wants to know in advance, especially on big aerospace projects, government projects, which is why earned value is used. A lot of people saying that earned value is useless. It's not useless if you're trying to regulate and control how money is spent and you're holding people accountable. And I've seen it being used, and it is still very useful today. In fact, it's unfortunate that a lot of people are still not using earned value despite the fact that their budget is going to the dogs. You can find one of my books. It's called Earned Value Basics. You can find the Earned Value Management Basics book. I believe it's on Amazon for those who use earned value, and you got to learn it, because some folks you just got to learn it. It's part of your job. This was the story of my life when I was at Honeywell. The second metric here is a 2 complete performance index. It's very simple. It's just work remaining divided by funds remaining. And what does it do for us? It shows us how likely we are to come in at the original budget. So if you think about it, if the work remaining is, in this example, let's say we have a lot of work remaining. I think we said about 40. Let's just say we have $40 of work remaining, and the funds remaining, let's say we have $28. This tells you that in order to meet management's original budget, you are going to have to work super hard. And the number that you get for this metric, in this case, it's going to be 40 divided by 28. And that's going to give you 1.43, thereabouts. This means for every dollar you spend, the dollar sign actually cancels. But the mindset, when you get a 1.43, the logic is for every dollar you spend, if you want to meet original budget, you got to get $1.43 of work done for every dollar you spend to meet management's original budget. You must work hard to get $1.43 value for every dollar spent. Now you tell me, how is that possible? The same question that management used to ask us. And this is how management knows you are lying if you say, oh, we can still get back on track. Not with a TCPI of 1.43. So I often say the TCPI is a lie detector mechanism. But anyway, my friends, now that we have gone pretty deep into the mindset, the logic of earned value, because one thing to rattle off the formulas, but it's another thing to actually know what earned value is for and how useful it is in the world of project management. But now that you understand the basics, you can easily apply this formula to our scenario here, right? So if we were going to do this for the numbers that we have here, 10, 750, and 12, let's go to a blank place here. So we can now calculate the CPI, which is earned value divided by actual cost. And in this case, the earned value was what? 750, and the actual cost was 12. Okay? The CV is going to be earned value minus actual cost, which is, put the dollars there because the dollar sign will not cancel in this formula, right? And then the SPI is earned value divided by planned value, which is 750 divided by 10. And the schedule variance is earned value minus planned value, which is $7.50 minus $10. Okay? When all is said and done, we use our trusty calculator here. We're going to say 750 divided by 12, and that gives us, for this one, 0.625. For this one, we get a negative 250. For this one, we get a 0.75. And for this one, we get a negative, oh, I beg your pardon, negative 450 for the top. There had to have been something wrong. That's a negative 450. Okay. Negative 450 and negative 250. Okay. Hopefully those numbers stack up. I didn't use a calculator. 7.5 minus 12. Yes, that's a negative 450. So what do these numbers mean? Let's go through them one by one. 0.625 means for every dollar you're spending a dollar, but you're only getting 62 cents. 62.5. Let's put the 0.5. You're getting 62.5 cents value out of a dollar. You're hemorrhaging money. You're wasting money. That's what it means. And then the 450 means you are $4.50 over budget. You're over budget. Okay? And then the 0.75 means you are only 75% efficient schedule-wise. That means you're planning to do 10 things and you're only getting 7.5 things done. You are behind schedule, and if it continues like that, you're going to end up being late overall. The $2.50 here, the negative 250, means you have $2.50 worth of work or worth of schedule to complete. So your $2.50 worth of work can be seen in that image where we have everything done for day one, but that place I've marked X. That's the 250 that you're missing. So when you make earned value visual, and you break it down like this, it becomes a lot easier to understand. All right? To better understand how earned value works, we should probably create a table, and we should create a table for you to better understand the metrics and the, what should I call it, the implication of the metrics. So let's create a table real quick here. 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And the way I like to think about this, I like putting cost together and schedule together and earned value. Let's actually make it a few more. This is going to make it easier for you. So you just remember that earned value is first in all of these, no matter what. Actually, we could use a blue, because earned value is king. I always tell people, you want to remember this formula or these formulas, you have to remember this fact. Earned value is a persona, right? And earned value has a crown on his head with rubies. It's a persona. And earned value gets mad if you don't put it first in the equation. Now you remember this. You will never forget this. But on a very good day, it has a sinister, toothy grin. It's been vindicated, and it's always first. So earned value is king. EV is king. Don't forget it. EV is king. Right? All right. That's how you remember earned value comes first. So in CPI, we have a division sign, right? Because it's an index. All the indices always have divisions. The variances have subtraction. CPI is cost performance index, so we have an actual cost for both of these, right? For cost variance too. Schedule performance index and schedule variance, we have PV, right? Now this is where you got to understand the implication of the formulas, okay? So when it comes to the indices and for cost, you say if it's a CPI equal to 1, you are on target. And honestly, it's not a bad thing to to actually write these down for yourself so you remember. CPI equals to 1, you're right on target. CPI less than 1, you are over budget. And if CPI is greater than 1, you are under budget. So I normally summarize this as follows. Equal to 1 on target. Greater than 1 is good. Less than 1 is bad. You see, greater than 1 is good, less than 1 is bad. When you have this as a default, it just helps you. Greater than 1 is good, less than 1 is bad. Greater than 1 is good, under budget, good. Less than 1, over budget, bad. Equal to 1, on target. So it's either on, over, or under. In the same token, when we take a look at our cost variance, we can say cost variance equal to 0 on target. Cost variance less than 0 over budget. And cost variance greater than 0 means you are under budget. Get it? This is how you rationalize. For the indices, equal to 1 on target, less than 1 is bad, greater than 1 is good. Now, if it is so much greater than 1, that could actually be a concern. So you got to watch it. For example, if you have a CPI, let's say your CPI is a 4.5. That means you're spending $1 and you're getting $4.50 out of a dollar. Are you a magician? Are you a Houdini? How are you doing that? So sometimes when your CPI is so high, it's a red flag. You know, like with government, if your CPI is more than, I believe it's 1.02, if it's greater than this, you are going to have some explaining to do, because it could mean you don't know what you're doing, or the marketplace conditions are crazy, or you're padding. That's what it could mean. All right, let's finish this off. Schedule performance index. Again, we're going to take that same logic and we're going to say if your SPI is equal to 1, you are on target. If your CPI is greater, let's stick to the consistent, less than 1 and then greater than 1. All right. Here we go. Okay, so if it is, let's see what we did up here, less than 1 and greater than 1. So if your SPI is less than 1, you are behind schedule. You know, we gotta call it schedule. Don't make the mistake of confusing SPI and CPI. They are not interchangeable. Cost performance does not equate to schedule performance. Just remember that. And then lastly, SPI, if it's greater than 1, that means you are ahead of schedule. Okay? And then last but not least, the same for the cost variant, schedule variance. Schedule variance equal to 0 is on target. Schedule variance less than 0, this is bad, this is behind schedule. And schedule variance greater than 0, this means you are ahead of schedule. So positive numbers are welcome within reason, negative numbers are not welcome. Okay, so we could say this is the implication, and we can say this is the metric, and these are the variables. This is your first variable, this is the operation, and this is your second variable. Okay, so in the case of our work on that problem here, we got a 0.625, a 450, a 0.75, and a 250. So if you put them in context, 0.625 minus 450, a 0.75, and a negative 250. When you do that, you now see what this means. So 0.625 is less than 1, you're over budget. Negative 450 is less than 0, right? So you're over budget. 0.75 is less than 1, you're behind schedule. And negative 250 is less than 0, So we can tell you're behind schedule. Now, if someone asks you which of these is the best measure of absolute performance, it will always be the indices, because this number, even though you understand the context of it because you have the budget at completion, you may not have that in a question. So this doesn't show you how bad things are. This does. Even if you're dealing with billions of dollars, this tells you how bad things are. Same for this. Tells you how bad things are. So someone might say, but Phil, how does one implement this stuff? Well, you implement this stuff with a lot of good project controls. You must be taking stock of your spend. You can't afford to say, well, people are hourly, so we're just going to go with, with the flow. Well, that's a sure way to kill any earned value operation, which is why on some projects it may not make a whole lot of sense, but I would still cost what we're putting in terms of effort. I would still do that, especially if you're working on big projects, because earned value helps with accountability. And if there's no accountability, people just spend anyhow. I've seen it happen time and time again. People, they make up numbers, they make up stuff, and they tell you everything is good until you look under the hood. I'll give you an example. We're working a project, and management took a look at the earned value metrics, and they said, knowing the kind of contract that we have, there is no way your cost performance index should be a 1.25. Why is that? Well, the work that we're doing is a level of effort project, and there's no way you're putting in more effort than you should. It's a level of effort. It's straightforward. We're paid by the hours. We don't go over the hours by contract. So if we have been doing that, then there's something wrong. You see, earned value raises the red flag and says someone's up to something or something's going wrong. Long story short, I do the investigation. I contact our field service engineers. I make the request for an explanation of how we spending this much. How is this happening? And come to realize we had people who were charging to a wrong cost center. And as a result of that, it was making us look good. There was a discrepancy. We're looking too good. It should be a 1 on a level of effort type of project. But this is just one example of how valuable earned value could be when it is done the right way. When it's done with, you give people the training, the education, you hire the right people, you've got ethical people, not people who are trying to game the system. Earned value can be extremely valuable to any organization. All right. Well, again, I hope this has been of value to you. I want to give a huge shout out to a friend who asked the original question, because we got this question from someone who was very curious to know about the estimate to complete. And sometimes if you don't get specific questions from people about earned value, you feel that, oh, it's straightforward, they should understand, they should get it. But maybe not. Maybe they don't get it. And that's why they ask questions, right? That's why we got the question from our subscriber. Now, if you have any questions, please ask. I want to give a shout out to the specific user, and that's our hero.
Rhea. It's
Hero
Rhea.
Roberts.
Rhea.
Hero
Rhea.
Roberts. So shout out to you, because without your question, I would not be creating this video. Oh, it's Rhea. I beg your pardon, Rhea. So Rhea, thank you for asking the question, because without your question, I'm telling you, I would have thought ETC is not really that high in demand. So thanks for the question. And those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, share it with your buddies who are getting ready for the PMP exam, and also check out the channel. We got a couple of channels. We have the Praizion channel, Praizion, and then we also have the Project Leadership Institute channel, the Project Leadership Institute. Okay? Check out both of those channels. Let's know how we can help. If you got any questions or if there are any videos that you want to see, shout out to all our friends on LinkedIn who are watching as well. Wish you all the very best in your project management, your PMP exam, your CAPM exam, whatever you're working on. Those of you getting ready for the PMP exam, remember I have a course on Udemy, and you can find the course at tinyurl.com/elite PMP. Okay? If you are getting ready for the CAPM exam, then just put in the extension elite CAPM. That is tinyurl.com/elite CAPM. All right? All the very best. Keep on practicing, earn value. And if you have questions, now would be a very good time to ask them. There was one aspect that I felt we could probably have gone a little bit more into, and this is the pragmatic question of how do I implement an earned value management system? For those who want to go deeper into it, because maybe your work demands it, maybe you're in a PMO that is, very earned value conscious, and you want to know more, stick around because I have another 2 hours of training for you. For those of you who feel you've already gotten what you need for your exam or just for your understanding, this will be a good time for you to ask me any questions about earned value. So, any questions? My friends on Instagram, thank you for coming through. A shout out to Neil for jumping in there. Buate Jr., thank you. I am Anthony, thank you for coming through. But let me just put that in the chat. Do you have any questions for me before I change gears? Now, one of the reasons why people are a little bit concerned about earned value management is because no one has really shown them how to implement an earned value management system. And I touched on this just a little bit when I was going over the whiteboard stuff, but I want to go just a little bit further for you. And I'm going to share with you some additional information about how you can implement an earned value management system. So, how you would do this, where you would start from, is you need to have the information available. You need to have the scope of work clearly broken down into a WBS. If you don't have a WBS, you're not going to have very good earned value calculations done. There has to be a breakdown by deliverable. You have to understand the budget tied to each deliverable. And when I say deliverable, I'm really talking more about the word you folks know, work packages, right? You got to tie it into the work packages. And then you even need to go deeper. That's right. You actually need to get into tasks in some instances, depending on your bandwidth and your level of control. So, if I was to give you a very simple guide to implementing earned value, it would have to start off with a very clear scope. So, you got to break down the project into a WBS. You got to assign budgets, timelines, deliverables. Your scope has got to be clear. And when you attribute a certain level of effort to a project deliverable, it has to be accurate. Otherwise, your earned value is going to be garbage. See? So, for you to have very good earned value metrics, you must start off with a WBS. You must break down your WBS budget into those silos. We call those silos control accounts. So, your control accounts have got to be bulletproof. Number two, when you are assigning things such as your planned value, like like the as I showed you in the first part of the tutorial, I showed you that the budget at completion is the cumulative planned value, right? It's the net. You add up all the planned values, you get your budget, right? So we could invariably say your planned value is a percentage of what you're planning, right? For which section times the total budget. So if you're dealing with a quarter of the project, then your planned value for a quarter of the project is whatever percentage that is, 25% times the total budget. It's very important that you understand whether your planned values are going to be broken down by week, by month, because planned value has to be tied to a time box. Okay. Distribute the budget across the timeline and the tasks, and that will form the baseline for your schedule performance. So, do you want to track weekly, monthly, quarterly? You could do it at any level. If you're doing at the quarterly level, you don't have as much rigor like in projects I worked on, where weekly we are reporting to management. Number three, you must have a very good tracking of your actual cost. This is the sad part in many firms. As I said, they just tell you, oh, Phil's hourly, we don't need to track his cost. Well, that's a sure way to just blow past your not just budget, but your resource estimates. So you want to make sure that you have real time costs down, maybe a day or two, but you must have a very good system, similar to the one that we used when I was at Honeywell. As you're working, the time, the tracking is all updating as invoices are coming in, as expenses are coming in, or going out of the project, you're also capturing those. You could use simple tools like spreadsheets or accounting software, but the bottom line is you got to ensure that there's a regular and disciplined cost tracking. And, it's unfortunate that a lot of firms don't do this. They think their PMs, I don't know, are just going to automatically always be on budget. No matter, even the PMPs, you need accountability, you know? So if you're working on very big projects, big scope, big budgets, I wonder why you wouldn't use earned value, at least at some level, for accountability. You see, when you're using earned value, for it to work, you must understand in clear terms the percent complete to date. Because if you don't, or you have a guess, then the earned value is going to be useless, to be honest. Next thing you got to do is measure your earned value. This is where the percent complete comes in. Earned value is percent complete times whatever that budget is, or planned value, if you will, depending on how you're looking at it. Earned value reflects actual work completed, not effort or time spent, and it's measured per work package. So if you are a PMP and you are in an organization and they tell you, hey, you have to implement an earned value, some sort of tracker, don't freak out. It's not that big a deal. You just need management to be on your side as far as what you need. And you need to articulate, I need schedule, scope, and cost information coming in real time or as close. And then the next thing is you calculate key metrics, right? SPI, I've shown that to you, right? Are we on schedule? CPI, are we within budget? And ETC, right? What is the future going to be? How much more money are we going to spend? ETC is the metric that is at the center of this discussion. And I'm going to give a shout out to Ria for asking the question, because without that question, I wouldn't have known. Oh, wait a minute. We've not really gone that deep into ETC. ETC is the magic metric a lot of managements don't ask. If only they asked, how much more money do we need from today? They can very quickly see if their people are going to be over budget, especially if you do a brand new bottom up estimate to complete. And then EAC is also a very good one to ask. This is where a lot of CEOs or C level, CFOs should be asking the question, what is your EAC based on today's performance? And it's a simple metric, actual cost plus the estimate to complete. If the team is being honest and the estimate to complete has been done from the ground up, bottom up ETC, not using the EAC equals BAC over CPI, but this one, and they really go down to the granular levels, you'll be able to find out how likely it is for your team to blow past the budget. Just like in the example I gave, EAC was 64 and the BAC was 40. Now scale that up into the millions and you can see how useful this is. All right. Use simple tools. You can use Excel. Google Sheets is good because you've got common accessibility from your team members and they can put in their own numbers. If you're really looking to do this in your organization and you need help, you need consulting, I offer that. So if you're looking to bring earned value into your firm, you want a simple system, you don't want to break the bank, yeah, we can easily build something with Google Sheets easily. And I can always show you how to incorporate some AI into whatever you're doing just with Google Sheets. You can actually use it very conveniently to understand your project's health. So if that is of interest to you, just reach out to me, info@praision.com. That is the email address for the organization, info@praision.com. I'm going to put that in the chat because I know a lot of people, you want to do this, but you don't know how. And you don't want to break the bank by going to, maybe you don't have SAP modules for earned value and you're wondering, what do I do? Easy. Google Sheets. Easy. All right. So you would set up your Google Sheet with the AC information, the PV information. Already you've broken down your scope, right, into the WBS. So you got your EV, your PV, your AC, you're being honest. You've got access to those numbers coming in for resource hours or cost. If you do a conversion, a lot of firms get stuck on, well, Phil is this, $100 an hour and Bob is $200 an hour. How do we get all their monies in there? You just go with an average company rate. Go with an average company rate. But it needs to be based on historical information and expert judgment. It is doable. It may not be a perfect number, but it's better than nothing. All right. And then for earned value to actually work, there has to be accountability. If management isn't interested in the metrics, it is never going to work. All right. The next part is the monitoring and reporting, which is where management comes in. We want to be able to visualize the trends. So if your CPI is always sub one, the end is evident, right? If your SPI is always above the one, it's also a good time to ask questions. How are you performing so well? Did you pad? And this is how the government uses earned value metrics. They ask intelligent questions. You also could highlight variances, just like I told you the story of our CPI was like a 1.25. It was looking too good. And then management said, Phil, you got to look into this. There's no way it could be because it's a level of effort project, right? As far as the reports, keep them simple, keep them clear, and keep them decision focused. And at the end of the day, you're going to get good feedback from management. Some of the mistakes that you need to avoid as you use earned value, it's confusing effort with actual value delivered. So you could put in 10 hours, doesn't mean that you actually delivered the equivalent of 10 hours of value when you boil it down. So you put in 10 hours to complete 10 things, right? You told management, I'm going to get 10 things done in 10 hours, but you're done with the 10 hours and you only got 4 things done. Mm. Now you can see how effort is not the same as value. And that's why we have earned value to actually look at the scope completed. So if you look at the scope completed and you only got 4 out of 10, then that's not your earned value. Your effort is, yeah, you put in 10 hours, but the value you got out is 4. You get what I'm saying? Another mistake that you want to avoid is infrequent updates, just wishy-washy. Okay, we reported on this, and then another 2 weeks go by, and no accountability, no reporting. That's not how to use earned value. Management has got to be like a hawk watching those metrics. So there has to be accountability at the higher levels. My advice is for the C level, the VP level, to build that into their monthly reviews and have the director level people build that into their weekly reviews so that it all goes up. So at the end of the day, the C level or the VP level may not have a weekly report, but at the end of the month, their eyes are going to be on that thing. And then the directors, they're all over that stuff on a weekly basis. Managers, maybe even on a daily basis. Because with earned value, and I'm talking about millions and hundreds of millions of dollars kinds of projects, this is, in my mind, something that every one of those projects should have. This used to be the story in the US government, earned value, for a lot of these projects. Unfortunately, now a lot of people don't use earned value anymore. So the bottom line is earned value helps answer what did we plan to do, what have we actually done, and what did it cost. Start simple, track consistently, and you got to decide wisely. There has to be the smart people in management being honest and telling the truth about how things are looking. Sometimes things aren't looking great. And that would be a perfect opportunity to just fess up, own up, and say, hey, things aren't going that great. What are we going to do to get things back on track? Okay. Any questions, my friends? Questions, comments, concerns? Because we're going to amp it up a little bit. We're going into the belly of the beast further. For those of you who missed the beginning, it's okay. I've got a huge amount of information I'd like to share with you on earned value for beginners. So we'll go back to ground zero. I'm going to start from the ground up, and we're going to be rolling for roughly 2 hours. Okay, for those of you who have the stamina. So let's begin our conversation. Let's get rolling. All right. So, earned value 101. For those of you taking the PMP exam, you don't have to go this hard.
Hey, the PMP exam is one of the most difficult tests for professionals, and we've heard this from everyone. But not to worry, you have a coach who eats the PMBOK for lunch. Here he is to set the record straight for you, your friend Phil.
Hello, my friends. I hope you are doing awesome, and I hope your day is coming along well. Well, you know why we're here today? It's Earned Value Day. And I hear that little voice in the background. I'm scared. I'm scared of earned value. And my EACs. Help. I don't want to study earned value. Some people being little wimps regarding earned value. We need to put a stop to that. So this is the Earned Value Boot Camp to boot that nonsense out of your vocabulary. How dare you tell me you're scared of earned value? I'm scared. EACs. I can't cram them. Help. That's how some people are, crying about EACs. You guys are project managers on big multi-millions. Some of you maybe even approaching the billies. And you're here whining about EACs. We're going to put a stop to that tonight. We're going to try to get you in ship shape for the PMP exam where earned value is concerned. So I'm going to put up my no whining sign. No whining allowed. We're going as hard as possible right now on earned value. Our main intent with all this stuff is to get to the point where you feel very, very comfortable with earned value management. That's my main aim. If I can get to the point where you feel comfortable with earned value, then I would have achieved my goal tonight. So why don't you chat into me? I'm very curious to know, first of all, how you're doing. I hope you're doing good. But I also want to know how you're finding earned value. You finding it a manageable topic? And if not, just chat into me and tell me what are your pain points, if any, in earned value. Hey Shri, how you doing? Shri, I thought you would have run out of energy. You mean business with your PMP prep. You're definitely not that baby archetype, are you? Shri means business. Shri is in our 35-hour PMP exam virtual course. And you can see she's here showing up for her PMP exam success, showing up to deliver, and showing up to get, which is really awesome. Kevin, how you doing? It's been a while. How's your prep coming along? How are you finding earned value, Kevin? I hope you're finding it good. Well, today is, like I said, it's earned value day, and this is the day that we're gonna really show earned value, what we're made of. Now, this annoying character behind me has been messing around with my connections. You know who I'm talking about. This character over here. Now, I'm not even going to let him speak. I've silenced him, but he messed up all of my connections here. Pimpy, go in the corner. And we're not going to hear anything from you. Just go to the corner. Miserable as usual. For those of you who don't know Pimpy, he's the embodiment of the PMP exam, trying to terrorize people, but we're going to put a stop to that tonight. So, folks, let us begin to traverse the world of earned value management. It's the same old bad channel good channel, sorry. Let me be positive. The same old good channel in the PMBOK guide behind me. Chapter 7. Those of you who have gone to chapter 7, you know why I'm saying it's that same old bad channel. There's a lot of stuff in chapter 7, and one of the pieces of chapter 7 that we really need to dig into tonight is earned value. So you can see it's not for nothing that I'm going slow. I'm going slow for a reason. I'm going slow and trying to ease off on the gas, because once we hit, it's going to be pretty wild once we hit. So we are going to be hitting, like I said, earned value from start to end. Okay? It's going to be pretty aggressive. So I'm trying to give you some leeway, because once we hit, that's it. Okay. So are you ready to roll with earned value? See, I told you Pimpy messed around here a little bit, so my screen is not showing what it should. But why don't I start off like this? Why don't I start off by showing you the very basics of earned value from a layman's perspective? Maybe I should do that. Devon, how you doing? Hakeem, good to see you. Kevin said, I struggle with the exam when I have to decide which EVM formula I should be using. Good, okay. That's good to know. Good to know. Okay. Well, let me start off with a whiteboard, and as we proceed through this, I'll figure out what on earth is happening, because Pimpy has been extremely naughty here and has done what he shouldn't. So my whole setup has somewhat gone to the dogs. But we're going to find out how to rectify that. Okay, so let's start off, before I go into slides or anything of that nature. Let me start off with the basics of earned value. I'll try to do it from a more organic standpoint here. So I'm showing you a whiteboard, okay? Here is the summary of earned value from a layman's perspective. EVM is a story about, one, am I on, over, or below my budget. One, am I on budget? Am I over budget? Or am I below the budget that I planned for a particular activity or particular thing on the project? That's the first thing that EVM is going to help you address. Am I on budget? Am I over budget? The correct word would be under budget. Under budget. Okay? So earned value right off the bat is going to address that. Am I under budget? Am I over budget? Am I on budget? Okay. The next thing to be addressed here is, am I on, ahead, or behind schedule? That is the second thing that EVM is going to help you address. Am I on schedule? Am I ahead of schedule? Am I behind schedule? See? The next thing that EVM is going to help you address, I'm going to move this up. EVM is going to help you address what does the future likely hold regarding my cost outcome. Whatever those are. Okay? What does the future likely hold regarding my cost outcomes? And if you go a step further, you can also answer the question, what will my schedule outcome likely be based on the trends I see? Okay, so this, folks, all of this stuff that I'm showing you here, earned value is going to help you tackle them. Okay, now I'm going to show you, those of you that need to hop off the bus really quick, I'm going to make sure that by the time you get off this bus, you're going to go away with at least some solid ideas and understandings of what your exam could present to you. All right, your exam could present you with different things, but some of the things that you are likely to come across are as follows. So I'm going to show you very quickly what each of these will map back to on the exam. So let me jump in really quick because I have to update our people in 2025 taking the exam. A lot has changed, and the PMI is not as gung ho as they used to be. PMI used to be really gung ho on earned value. They're not as gung ho anymore. Okay. It's not to say that earned value doesn't appear on the exam in 2025, but back in the day, we would have crazy questions on the EACs. That used to be a big one, and the TCPIs. So I want to make it very clear that this is like getting more into the masterclass zone, okay, for people taking the exam in 2025. you could probably survive the first 30 to 40 minutes if that is what you're looking to gain base knowledge. You also might want to go to the beginning of this live stream where I started talking about stuff in the very beginning from the ground up. But if you're in 2025, I don't want to scare you by telling you, it could present questions on TCPI or EAC. Like there are 4 EAC types, and I am going to cover them in this video. So if you're looking to learn more for the PMP exam, yeah, you probably don't want to hang around too much longer, because I will get into some pretty heavy stuff that is likely way beyond the exam as it is today. Okay. To give you a very quick idea, I used to teach the cost area for 4 hours. Now I only teach it for 1 hour in my training, majorly because the focus of PMI has been more of, do you understand the logic of problem solving? Okay. So I just wanted to, bottom line it with that. I don't want you to feel, oh, Phil said I should go study earned value, TCPI, and all that stuff. No. But as a good project manager, if you're working in oil and gas, if you're working in aerospace, if you're working in even pharma or multi millions and billions of projects, you should understand, earn value. And I also want to challenge you to maybe pick up PMI standard for earned value management and maybe read it a little bit more. If you're a member of the PMI, I'm going to drop this in the comments. This is what put me ahead. Okay. This is what put me ahead of the game. This is how I got into Honeywell. This is how I showed my worth. This is how I changed the game. It was by being an earned value junkie. So I did a lot of studying of earned value outside of the PMP exam. And a good place to start is with the document that I just put in the chat. So if you're a member of the PMI, you'll be able to download the PMI's standard for earned value management in 2025. You'll be able to put that in context. And for some people, it's going to be too much firepower. For other people, it's maybe not even going to be enough. Because I know some people, you still work for, I don't want to mention too many company names, but, the big aerospace boys and girls and, all those industries, defense and space. Yeah. Okay. Enough said. You get the idea. So Phil is saying, if you're taking the exam in 2025, SPI, CPI, CV, SV, and the interpretation of it. Let me give you a quick test for those of you who are takers. I'm going to put this in the chat. If I say SPI is 0.9 and CV equals $5,000, let's just do this very quick test. I'll put it on the screen right here. Tell me, what does this mean? Is this a good scenario or is this a bad scenario? Because when you're taking the exam, you got to boil it down. You got to bottom line everything to schedule and costs. What is a performance? Is this a good project or is this a bad project? Does anyone want to chat in? Okay, I know some of you are still at work. That's okay. Now, let me summarize what I'm showing you on the screen right here. From a schedule perspective, this is not very good, right? You're 90% efficient schedule wise. And from a cost perspective, this is good. You're under budget. So you're getting more work done than you're actually paying for. So this isn't bad. It's actually good. Plus $5,000. Now, if it was negative $5,000, we would have a problem. Let me give you one more just to be absolutely sure. Because, the exam today is very different from how it was back then. Okay, so let me give you another one. Let's say CPI is 1.1, and let's say your schedule variance is minus $55. So let's put that on the screen. Tell me, is this good or bad? Okay. So from a cost perspective, you're under budget, which is good. And from a schedule perspective, you're behind schedule, which is not good. Now, we can't say, oh, it's only $55 behind schedule. What if your project is a $75 project? Then this is very bad. You get what I'm saying? So you have to put this in context for your exam in 2025. But beyond that, going deeper into TCPI and EAC is voluntary. It's a matter of choice. And then you got to look at the standard for earned value management from the PMI that I put in the chat. This link over here. Okay. You can go download it. If you're a member of the PMI, it's free. Earned value was my gateway to upping the ante on my career. Because until Honeywell came out with that job offer, I wasn't thinking earned value could be, the main thing someone did for their career, but it was. I was an earned value specialist at Honeywell. So I'm very passionate about this. Like I said, I wrote a book. You can find that book on Amazon. It's called Earned Value Basics. I'm very passionate about it still. And let's put that on the screen. Okay. So while I'm passionate about earned value, I also don't want to mislead you into thinking you're going to have tons and tons of formulas on your exam. It's possible you might have some, and it's very possible you have none, but you need to understand stuff like this. Okay, which is why I stopped going deeper into the material, and I'm trying to help you folks, you 2025, 2026 people. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of formulas. It's possible you get some. I've had the unfortunate people who have up to 5 or even 10 formulas. But again, under most circumstances, probably not. All right. Now that I've established that, let's jump back into the EVM 101, and then let's scale it up into 202, 303 for those of you who need to go deeper. Different things. But some of the things that you are likely to come across are as follows. So I'm going to show you very quickly what each of these will map back to on the exam. Okay. So, first of all, am I on, over, under budget? You need to know CPI and the interpretations of CPI. See that? CPI and the interpretations of CPI. What does it mean if CPI is greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Okay? So that is the first thing you have to be aware. Greater than 1 means you are what? Under budget. Less than 1 means you are over budget, and equal to 1 means you are right on budget, right on target. For your exam, cheap exam questions could be your CPI is as follows. Your CPI is a 0.5 or a 0.7 or a 0.9 or a 1.5. Or in some rare cases, something ridiculous as a let's say 2.3. For your exam, you need to know what all of these mean. What does a CPI of 0.5 mean? Well, it means I am over budget, and so does a 0.7 and a 0.9. But you need to go to the next level, and you need to be able to say a 0.5 means blah, blah, blah. What does it mean in pragmatic terms? Not just, oh, I'm over budget. No, tell me what it means. It means I'm spending $1 and I'm only getting 50 cents out of it. Or I'm spending $1 in the case of a 0.7 and I'm only getting 70 cents out of every dollar I spend. Management isn't going to like that, okay? Now, what does a 1.5 mean? It means I'm spending $1 and getting $1.50 worth of work out. That is not bad. But it could be bad if you're in government space and government frowns on you looking too good. Maybe you padded. So as you find these questions on the exam, you do need to proceed with caution, all right? Hi, Andrea, how you doing? Andrea says, hey, Phil, this topic is one of my weak areas. Well, I'm glad we're covering it. You know, the main purpose is to crush this area, get it down pat, and make sure you know all the possible trickery you can find on the exam. Now someone might say, but Phil, why are you authorized to teach me earned value? Well, I've used earned value in my life, on the job. In fact, I was hired by a well-known aerospace company to implement an earned value management system. So I do know a thing or two about earned value. This is not your typical textbook instructor who just rattles off stuff in a PMBOK guide or what they have learned from a PMP course. No, I have eaten this stuff, drank this stuff, smoked this stuff, shot this stuff up into my veins so that when I wake up, it's in my brain. So you got someone who has lived this stuff, okay? So I can tell you all of the stuff I'm telling you here is used in the real world in a pragmatic sense. If you have a 2.3, you got big problems. Big problems. It means that you're spending $1 and getting $2.30 out of every dollar. How is that possible? Management is going to push you back and say, hey, there's a problem. Like in a firm I worked at, we had a situation where our CPI looked too good, and management said, Phil, you need to go look into this. So I went to look into it, and what did I find? I found out that costs were hitting the wrong charge number. That is what earned value management metrics can do for you. It tells you when there is something wrong. It's a signal to management that something is wrong and it needs to be looked into. Now you might say, but why? A 1.25 doesn't sound too bad. Well, if you're in a service contract, how are you pulling that off? Because you know you've got different earned value ways that you can measure earned value. And these are talked about quite extensively in a lot of government documentation. And there's some great work that was done by the Department of Energy, DOE. Maybe before the end of the session, I'll go look for those DOE files that are online and I'll see if I can direct you to them. But there are different ways you can claim earned value. And one of the ways you can claim earned value is by planning out what you need to do over a particular time period and taking account for the hours you work, like in a service contract. So that's how management knew there's definitely something up. This is a level of effort, and there's no way we could have been that good in terms of our CPI. All right, so on your exam, you're going to get questions such as your CPI is this, your SPI is this, and things such as that, okay? So I am on, over, under budget, okay? CPI is the first metric that will address that. I'm going to show you the second metric here. The second metric that addresses this is your cost variance, CV. Now, your cost variance, as the name implies, you're subtracting something, right? You're subtracting your actual cost from your earned value, okay? But I'm going to cover all of that stuff later on. But you need to know for your exam, if CV is equal to 0, what does it mean? If CV is less or greater than 0, what does it mean? What does greater than 0 mean? What does less than 0 mean? Anything equal to 0 on target. Anything greater than 0 means you got some Benjamins sitting somewhere. Greater than 0, okay, means that you are in good standing, but we need to see how good in relation to the budget. So for example, if your CV equals $1, that means you are $1 under budget. That means you've done work and you've got $1 spare money. So maybe you spent $29, but you got $30 worth of work accomplished. That's what that $1 means. On the flip side, if you have a minus $1, that would mean you have spent $30, but you only got $29 worth of work done. You see what I'm saying? So you need to know how to take these numbers as you find them on the exam and convert them into some real dialogue as far as what does it mean? Give me a scenario, give me an example, that type of thing. All right, so I am on over, under budget, so on and so forth. If you ever get the question, if someone says, what is the most conclusive metric for cost? And you have cost variance and cost performance index, the answer is always going to be the index, because a variance does not really tell you how good the variance is. For example, if we have a $1 positive variance, so CV equals $1, you don't know how good that is until someone tells you, oh, by the way, it's a $3 project. And you might be like, wow, we got $1 extra on a $3 project, that's great. But if someone says it's a $100 project and you've got a $1 positive variance, it's good, but it's not that good. So the question is usually, how good am I? And in order to know how good you are, it's always better to look at the cost performance index. You would favor the CPI. It's more conclusive compared to the CV. All right? Now, do you guys have any questions I can answer on CV and CPI before I go to the next topic? Do you have any concerns about CPI? Does it make sense? What about CV? Any questions? Shri says, I agree with you, Phil. PMBOK, that's funny. Ashish, good to see you. Ashish says, it's all about eating, drinking, sleeping, about project management. Repeat next day. And Shri says, wash, rinse, and repeat. You guys are hilarious, but it's true. You got to keep on in the zone until you're done, and then you pass it on to others. Okay, so that is all about the cost aspects. Why don't we dig into the schedule aspects a little bit? Okay, so let's examine this statement of mine here. That is, I am on schedule, ahead of schedule, behind schedule. If we focus on that a little bit more, we're going to have the schedule performance index, and we're going to have the schedule variance to talk about. Okay? And it's exactly the same thing, pretty much. Let me zoom in a little bit and discuss these. So if your schedule performance index is equal to 1, that means you're right on schedule. If your schedule performance index is less than 1, that means you are behind schedule. And if your schedule performance index is greater than 1, that means you are ahead of schedule. So to give you some quick examples, what does it mean if someone says SPI is equal to SPI equals 1.3 or SPI equals 0.9 or SPI equals 3? What do those mean? An SPI equals 1.3 means your rate of efficiency, schedule-wise, is you planned to get a portion of work done, but you got 1.3 times that work done within that time period. It means that you're ahead. An SPI of 0.9 means you plan to get $1 worth of work done within a time period, but you only got 90 cents of it done. That's not good. So management will say, what's going to happen to the 10 cents worth of work you didn't perform? And if you multiply that across millions of dollars, you're really late. Okay, so this means you're behind. SPI equals 3 means you plan to get a piece of work done and you got 3 times the amount of work done within the time period. So note this, CPI is for cost, SPI is for schedule. SPI cannot tell you how efficient you are in terms of the cost. You need the CPI to tell you that, all right? So SPI is strictly for schedule. The same thing when we take a look at schedule variance. We take a look at schedule variance here. SV equals to 0 means you're right on target in terms of schedule. Less than 0 means you're behind schedule. Greater than 0 means you're ahead of schedule. So if you say SV is equal to, for example, $200, versus SV equals minus $200. SV equals positive $200 means you are ahead of schedule and you've gotten $200 worth of work done ahead of the schedule. Minus $200 schedule variance means there is $200 worth of work that should have been done by today and it is not done, or it should have been done by the end of the time period and it is not done. All right, so what I've shown you here could probably get you 3 or 4 questions right if you apply the knowledge the right way and you're able to take all of this stuff I'm saying and convert it into real pragmatic terms. Because it's not enough to know, oh, SPI equals this is good, SPI. Convert it into like PM speak, because on the exam, I'm telling you folks, you could very well get this stuff on the exam. Okay? Good. So do you have any questions while I get ready to take us to the next level? You know, to get to the next level, I am going to have to amp it up a little bit with some slides. So I'm hoping I can show you some slides. Pimpy really messed me up this evening with this stuff that he did. He fell, and as he fell, he took down the entire system with him. You know, he's so bad. He's so bad. But any questions on what I have shared so far? Any concerns about what I've shared so far? I am waiting for some chats. Chat into me, chat into me, chat into me. Chat into me as I try to redeem what this Pimpy has done. It's really, really done something so bad here. He must be chuckling to himself. Come on, questions, comments, concerns about earn value before I go to the next level. Hopefully I'm going to be able to do that, because at this rate, nothing seems to be working no more. So chat in while I try to fix this. Okay. Okay, well, it should work. Just need to make a little tweak and things should go back to normal here. So bear with me as I try to get this. And in the meantime, I just want to give a shout out to those friends who came through. Neil out of London, the Master Chef. I see you, buddy. Thanks for coming through. I hope everyone out there is doing good. You know who I'm asking about, but the team out there. And those of you who have recently passed the PMP, woo, well done. I know some of you have been burning the midnight oil and you are now free of studying like a maniac. Well done. Shout out to those of you who have recently done it. And those of you who are still preparing, a shout out to you as well, because that's why you keep showing up to these lives and these videos. I have a rather interesting video coming out this evening, 29th of July, and the video is about how AI needs to be watched. That's true. AI may not be as friendly as you think. It oftentimes gives you answers to PMP questions that are actually not correct. And I'm going to be addressing that in the video. So you might want to, go to the Praision channel. I have that video coming out in the next maybe couple of hours. And we're going to expose the variance between GPT and Gemini. Those two. They don't always tell the truth. Sometimes we have to hold them accountable. So you might want to look into that. Also on the Praision channel, very recently, we started a series where we're going through the 35 tasks for the PMP exam. So that's going to help some of you who are finding it hard to stay on the wagon because the PMP contains so many different elements. You got the 10 knowledge areas, the 5 process groups, you got potentially 49 processes. Now, even though there's no PMBOK 6, that information is in Process Groups, a practice guide published by PMI, which means it's still relevant. And we can also see the shadow of things to come in the 8th edition, where they aren't backing down from the processes. They're spinning it and weaving it into a few other different allotropes of the same thing. But honestly, I think PMBOK 6 was the best one that was written, just based on what I'm seeing in the 7th and the 8th. And that information is not going away. So it behooves you to understand that stuff, you know. And then we have Agile, we have Hybrid, we have Predictive. It makes it very difficult to manage. And for that reason, we've started a PMP exam mindset series on the Praizion channel. And if you stay tuned, we're going to bring you 35 days of deep insights into the mindset for each task. Okay? But anyway, let's jump back in. Little nasty piece of work. Okay. All right. Well, let us talk about some of this overarching stuff that I mentioned in the beginning. Devon chatted in, EVM is king, earn value is king. So why don't we take a look at some of these concepts, all right? So our major objectives, as you probably already guessed, are to hone in on earned value management, talk about forecasting, talk about formulas, and any specific questions you have. You guys are very familiar with what I'm showing here, I hope. You're familiar with this table. And just for the record, I would advise you to practice this table, page 25. I know we're talking about earned value, yes, yes, yes. But nonetheless, this table is important for your prep. And the better you are at it, the better it is for you on the exam, because you really need to know where everything lies. Now, right now, we are focusing on control cost. And inside control cost, we are focusing on which tool and technique. Somebody chat into me. Which tool and technique are we? Now, answer this question carefully, because it might be a trick question. Which tool and technique are we currently focused on? Which tool and technique are we currently focused on? Anyone know? Which tool and technique are we currently focused on? I don't know if that's the right answer. Which tool and technique are we currently focused on? All right, let me take a look at the chats and see if anyone got this right. Shri says, these 4 are clear now. Can't wait to get a hang on BAC, EAC. Very good. Dara, good to see you. It's been a while. Can you talk about TCP? Of course. Of course. Are you kidding me? Dara, are you kidding me? Of course we need to talk about TCPI. Hakeem says there are several EAC for. Of course. Hey. Take a chill pill. You guys sound like you've taken 5 of these. Please, calm down. We're gonna discuss everything. All of it. Thank you, Devon. You are in the zone. Data analysis. That is exactly what we're going to be talking about. Data analysis. And under data analysis in control cost, as my buddy Devon, real name withheld, Devon is on our learning management system. He's there to slay it, kill it, and bring it, by the way. And I'm happy he's in the zone. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin is in the zone, also on our system. Shri as well. You guys that are on the system, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. But we're talking about data analysis. And why do I bring that up? I bring that up because it's very important that, now he's not that important to me right now. In fact, I should send you to the corner, the far corner, Pimpy. You've just been a miserable waste of my time. See how long you took me to set this stuff back up? But let me show you guys. Let me show you. Let's go to 7.3. Those of you who are scholars, actually 7.4, scholars of the PMBOK guide, I want to point something out to you. And I think Shri just chatted this in. It's page 261. Now it says data analysis. Data analysis techniques that can be used here are not limited to one earned value analysis. So if you come across EVA on your exam, you got to remember it's not always going to be called earned value management, earned value analysis. The second one, which is where a lot of people's nightmares are, is variance analysis. And then the other one that can tell you a ton of things is trend analysis. Okay? And within that, we talk about the charts to be read, we talk about forecasting and so on, and then you've got a final bullet on page 265, reserve analysis, which you guys are hopefully familiar with. But that's not the end of earned value. If you turn the page to 266, you also have one more that people run away from, and that is TCPI. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, okay? Shri says earned value analysis is pretty much the sub technique. Thank you, Devon. Okay. So I'm showing you this so that you point where a lot of this pain is coming from. It's coming from one tool and technique inside one process. But it's big and very significant. And for that reason, the PMI actually have a standard totally dedicated to earned value, or I should say a practice guide for earned value. So if you're a member of the PMI, you'll be able to see where that is. You can download it, and outside of the realm of your PMP prep, probably go into that. But let's go back to our slides because there's a lot of stuff to talk about, okay? And I want to make sure the build-up is thorough. So inside cost management, we have seen our problem isn't with the first three. Plan cost management, yeah, we know what we're doing. Estimate costs, we've got an idea of what we're doing. Determine budget, we're coming up with a final budget, but don't forget there is some stuff in determined budget that we do need to understand for our PMP exam. I'm going to be showing you that a little bit. And then we have control cost, which is streamlining cost changes, preventing unauthorized additions, and so on. So these are base questions. I expect you to know the answers to these. Can I rely on you to know the answers to these? Because I really don't want to go through the whole kitchen sink. Where do these come from? Cost management plan, cost baseline, cost estimates, BOEs, project funding requirements, and cost forecasts. I'm hoping you know this. I'm hoping this is not an issue for you, all right? Next, where are the following tools and techniques used in cost management? EVA, talked about this, hopefully you know. Funding limit reconciliation, analogous, parametric, bottom-up, 3-point, cost aggregation, historical information review, financing, and TCPI. I'm hoping that in your mind you can go inside where all that PMBOK data is and you can assign these to the relevant processes. They are all from different processes, all right? If you're not able to do this before your exam, you should, all right? So let's talk about the cost baseline. This is a very important part that I want you to know because it is a setup to better get a grasp of earned value in the real world. So your project budget, the word budget is used loosely in earned value, but outside of earned value, it means something totally different. When we talk about the budget, a big part of it could be, depending on the project, management reserves. Management reserves are not part of your cost baseline. This is very important. Your cost baseline is a standalone item and it is used for tracking the earned value performance. Management reserves is not part of your cost baseline. So keep that in mind. Now, when you break down the cost baseline, you got several control accounts that add up to the cost baseline. When you break down your control accounts, you've got contingency reserves and work package cost estimates that roll up into your control accounts. So if what I'm speaking about is like Greek to you, then it means you need to go read chapter 5, scope management, and understand the hierarchy, root node, control accounts, other WBS components, but then you've got planning packages, and at the bottom you've got work packages. So work package cost estimates, when you add them all up, when you add those up along with any contingency reserves, you get your control account summation. And then when you break down work packages into smaller pieces, we're talking about activities. So your activity cost estimates, when you add them all up, they add up to the work package cost estimates. You also put in some contingency reserves at the activity level. So if you observe from what I have on the screen, activity contingency reserves are inside your work package cost estimates. Contingency reserves are inside your control account. And that's how it all maps into the overall cost baseline, and the cost baseline that we refer to as BAC is different from your project budget. Okay? So you need to really be familiar with the term cost baseline versus project budget. And when you hear budget at completion, no, please know they're not talking about the project budget. The BAC is used as a basis for measuring earned value across the entire project, and it's the same as your cost baseline, okay? So do you have any questions about this stuff I just shared? Questions, comments, or concerns? If you have no questions, comments, or concerns, then I'm just going to move on ahead to the next section here. So cost baseline, the authorized time phase budget at completion. This is key. Your cost baseline is not just, oh, it's 5 million total. No, no, no. You got to break it down, folks, into the time phases. Q1 is 2 million. Q3 is 5 million, like that. Break it down into time periods, either by quarter or by month or by week or by day, depending on your project, all right? So the cost baseline is the planned cost over specific time periods in the project. For you to really know what the cost baseline is, you're thinking about the time phased budget at completion. Because if you don't phase out your budgets, your cost baseline or your BAC, how are you going to measure performance? Okay, so keep that in mind, very important. Another big part of cost management is project funding requirements. So it's one thing to know earned value and how we need a time-phased budget, but even before you get to control costs, do you know that you should inform management about project funding requirements? This is when I need the 2 million. Because it's very easy for management to think, oh, it's a $12 million project, you need $1 million each month. No, no, no. I need more money up front, or I need more money in the middle. It needs to be communicated. So this is the final idea of funding for the project in total and also periodically. Okay? Let's go into our main topic, earned value management. It's the most commonly used form of performance measurement. It considers cost, scope, and schedule to help the project management team and assess and measure project and progress performance. Project progress and performance. Now, we've already gotten a lot of this stuff out of the way. We've already talked about the overarching pieces that make up earned value management. And let me just get this image out of the way so that you can better see the slide. But what you're seeing there is ETC, CV, SV, CPI, SPI, which are derivatives of the 3 key metrics, PV, EV, and AC. Okay, I'm going to break this down further, but right now this is the top of the waves. You know, we're just trying to get you into the right zone so that I can accelerate this thing and move into the harder areas. The underlying philosophy of earned value is I should get what I paid for. I paid $10, I should get $10 worth of work, right? But what happens if you do not get the full value of what you paid for? Let me move this out of the way. The underlying philosophy of EVM is I should get the full value of what I paid for, but if I don't, then I need to analyze, what is the true value of this thing? How much was paid for it? Is there a variance? If so, why is there a variance? Why did I not get $10 worth of work out of this thing? I paid $10, but I can see it's only worth $8, this thing I paid $10 for. The project manager should then decide, how am I going to correct this issue on the project? So what is EVM? When we talk about EVM, we can break it down into these core metrics. Okay, earned value management is all about metrics, and you need to know what the metrics really mean. Okay, earned value, that is a measure of the work that you have performed. So if you have worked on the project and achieved $5 worth of work, that is your earned value. What is planned value? Well, if I worked on the project and gained $5 worth of work, the question is, how much work should I have completed within this particular time period? And if you got $5 worth of work done, but you planned to get $6 worth of work done, planned value is, I planned to get $6 worth of work done within this time box. I only got $5 worth of work done. You see? So they are different. For those who think, oh, they're not really different. They are different. Planned value is what you planned to get done within a time box. Earned value is what you actually got done within the time box. And the last metric, actual cost, is what you paid. Okay? So at this point, it might be helpful if I gave you a little pragmatic view of these three things. So let's take a look one more time. We've got planned value. Let's say this is our project here to paint this wall. Planned value says, oh, I'm going to paint all of this, and I'm going to paint all of this for $10. Okay? I'm going to paint all the wall for $10. That's planned value. Actual cost and earned value are different. Let's take a look at earned value first. Earned value would be, for example, okay, within the time box, I did not get all of the work done. I got this shaded area done. I got this shaded area done. Someone looks at it and says, okay, that's 60% of the work. Your earned value is going to be the percent complete times the planned value. So we're going to say 60% of the $10. And that's going to be $6. So in this example, you could say your earned value is $6. I got $6 worth of work done. Now let's throw in the last metric. Now, I got $6 worth of work done, but guess what? Things didn't go according to plan. Apart from the fact that I am late because I didn't get everything done within the time box, I actually had to spend $8 bringing in actual cost. I had to spend $8 on this because there were problems on the project that I didn't anticipate. Doesn't that happen in the real world? You plan to use only 5 hours of a resource's time, you end up using 10. Or you planned to spend a particular amount to rent some equipment, and you go to rent it and the prices have gone up, maybe bad planning or just circumstances. But the bottom line is you ended up spending more than you anticipated for the work. So two things: you are late because you only got 60% of the work done, and you are over budget. You're over budget by $2 because this work is only worth $6 and you paid $8. You see the problem? So right off the bat, you can see, my goodness, I'm over by $2. My CV is going to be $6 minus $8, and this is going to be a minus $2, which means I'm over budget. You see, I'm over budget. You look at the schedule, the same thing. You're going to say, oh, well, I planned to get $10 worth of work done. I only got $6 done. Common sense tells you, oh, I'm $4 behind. Okay. Now, if we wanted to make it all scientific, we would say, oh, schedule variance is equal to earned value minus planned value. And that is really your 6 minus 10. Don't forget the dollar signs. This is a trick on most exams, but it's a minus 4. Now, on the exam, you know what they could do to you? They could give you options as minus 4, A, minus 4, B, oh, minus $4, B, minus 4, no dollar sign. You see that? You see that trick? There's a difference between the minus $4 and the minus 4. If you choose the minus 4 on the exam, you're going to get it wrong. See? What about $4 and what about good old 4? These are tricks that you could get on your exam, and if you don't pay close attention to the fact, let me help you out. Let me give you one more tip for those who are not looking. Variances, if you're dealing with variances, you're dealing with a currency symbol. You're dealing with a symbol of some sort, okay? If you're dealing with indices, if you're dealing with an index, you just have a number. If you're dealing with SPI or CPI or TCPI, you're just going to have a 0.5, no dollar sign. So if you get questions on the indices and you have A, 0.5, B, $0.5, or things such as that, you know that this cannot be the answer because it has a dollar sign. Okay? So I just wanted to give you a real world view of this very basic concept so that you understand planned value is the promise, earned value is what I got done, and actual cost is what I spent, okay? Planned value is the promise. This right here, planned value is a promise, okay? It is a promise to get done within a particular time period, okay? I'm going to get this done within a particular time period at a particular amount of money or rate. Actual cost is how much did I really spend on that thing, and earned value is how much of the thing, how much of the promise did I actually accomplish. So there's quite a lot of stuff here, guys, to talk about, okay? So going back to our slides here, what is EVM? Now you have a good idea of EV, PV, and AC. Now let me show you when we talk about the budget at completion, there is often some confusion from people about the BAC. I want to see if I can address some of those pieces of confusion. But before I do that, let me take a sneak peek at some of the chats. I think there's been some chats, and I want to make sure that I capture them all. Don't want to miss any of the chats from our friends here. So bear with me while I take a look at what is going on in chat world. If I can. Okay, I'm just taking a peek to see if I missed any chats here, so bear with me. Always need units of measure, which I rarely see. Okay. Can you explain that further, Devon? Tell me a little bit about what you meant by that, so that I'm absolutely sure about what you mean. But if there are any questions, by all means, stop me. All right. So we're still on EVM. I want to give you guys a view of the world of BAC. I know we talk about BAC a lot, you know, and some of you know it very well, but I want to talk about BAC just a little bit. So here's an example. Let's say we're on a project to paint a wall, and we're going to break this down into 4, and this is Herman. Herman the painter. Looks like Herman the bumblebee at this rate. Herman has got a pail. He's got some paint. He's got his paintbrush. And Herman has been asked to paint this wall. Okay? Herman says to management, "Oh, I can get this done in no time. You can count on me. I'm going to get this done in 4 days." And when Herman breaks it down, this is what it looks like. He breaks it down into these 4 days and says, on day 1, I'm going to get this done. On day 2, I'm going to get this done. On day 3, I'm going to get that done. And on day 4, I am going to have the 4th panel complete. And then management says to Herman, "Okay, so how much is this going to cost you?" Herman says, "No problem. On day 1, this is going to cost $10 to paint that part of the wall. On day 2, it's also going to cost me $10 because the conditions are exactly the same. On day 3, it's also going to cost me $10 to paint that. And on day 4, it will also cost $10. Management says, "Herman, look, the last time you did this, it ended up costing us $120. Are you sure you've got your maths down pat?" He says, "Yes. In fact, let me introduce you to a metric that summarizes all of this." And that metric is the BAC, the budget at completion, which is known as your cumulative planned value. BAC is cumulative planned value, folks. This is so important. I cannot overstate that your BAC equals to the summation of your PV1, your PV2, your PV3, all the way to whatever PVN is. So you're going to summarize, you're going to sum up all of your planned values, okay? So your BAC is your cumulative planned value. PV for day 1, 2, 3, all the way to whatever is the final, okay? So if you take a look at this picture, it becomes very evident what Herman is trying to accomplish. Herman is trying to accomplish $40 of work within 4 days. And at the end of each day, he should gain 25% of the overall picture of work to be done. So day 1, you could think of it like this. If Herman was going to do a milestone chart, he would say, day 1, I'm going to get 25% of the work done. Day 2, by the end of day 2, and this is at the end, and this is of course a cumulative, at the end of day 2, he would have gotten 50% of the work targeted complete. At the end of day 3, again, he would have gotten 75% of the work, okay, done. And at the end of day 4, he would have gotten 100%. And if you look at milestones of cost in a cumulative fashion, at the end of day 1, he should have spent $10. At the end of day 2, he should have spent $20. At the end of day 3, $30. And at the end of day 4, $40. Remember, I'm talking cumulative. And that's why I'm saying by the end, okay? So the plan is that by the end, this would have been his accomplishments, okay? His accomplishments, either in percent or in dollars, okay? So whenever you look at earned value problems, folks, you want to break it down into what do I need to have accomplished, or what should this person have accomplished at each time period. On the exam, you could get questions that break down the budget at completion into tiny chunks. Phil is a project manager working on a project. Day 1, PV is $3. Day 2, PV is $4. And on day 3, PV is $8. What is the BAC for the project? You guys tell me. Let me make sure we're all paying attention. Phil is a project manager on a project. On day 1, you have that as the planned value. Day 2, you have $4. And day 3, you have $8. Well, let me get Phil out of the frame so that you guys can properly see what I'm talking about. So tell me, what is the budget at completion? What is the budget at completion if Phil is working on a project? PV on day 1 is 3, PV on day 2 is 4, and PV on day 3 is 8. What is the plan? What is the budget at completion? What is the BAC? That is the question. What's the answer to the question? Kevin says, very good information. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Ashish says, please, Phil, explain 7-12. Devon said, you said units of measure for variances and none for indices. Always wonder when to use units of measure and when not to. So for variances, you use, of course, a $sign. For indices, no $sign, just the plain old index. It's an index, that's all it is. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Devon. Thank you, Kevin. Hakim, thank you very much. You're right on the money. Ashish, Dara, Shri, thank you very much. You guys are right on the money. Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Very good. Good. So we understand that. Okay. Now let's go back to our slides because there is a problem that we're going to begin to unravel slowly but surely. We're going to have to unravel this problem here. So let's go back to our slides. We've talked about all of these metrics so you understand EV, PV, AC, BAC. We've also talked about schedule variance, cost variance, SPI, and CPI. Okay? So I appreciate you guys bearing with me because I don't want to lose anyone. I know some of you are at the verge of all I need is the EACs. And I can understand that. But I can't leave the folks who do not know this stuff behind. Okay? I cannot leave them behind. All right. So ultimately, by the time all is said and done, I am going to explain all that you're seeing on the screen. Okay? You might have come across this in my online videos, the 4 phases of EAC and things such as that. So 7-12, 7-12. Okay, so very good. Oh, it's funny. So Dara, I think it was you or Ashish, one of you. Let me see who chatted that in. The chats went by so quick, I actually didn't see. 7-12. Oh, that was Ashish. Okay, Ashish, so 7-12. 7-12, what you're looking at is an earned value graph, okay? An earned value graph. And on the exam, let me just get this out of the way because, you know, when I don't address stuff, sometimes it just vanishes. So if you have an earned value graph like that, on the exam, you're going to have like 3 different lines. Not that you will, you could, depending on your exam, of course. You're going to have 3 different lines. And the question could be, at point X, let's say this is point X right here. At point X, what is the state of your project if the black line here is EV, the red line, oops, come back. It's vanished all of a sudden. Okay. I need to get back my whiteboard, so bear with me. I'm gonna get back my whiteboard. It vanished into oblivion. How dare you do that to me? Come back, you little rascal. Don't you love technology? It just has ideas that are unfounded. All right. So here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. All right, back to the whiteboard. So EV is the black line. Let's say the red line is AC and the blue line is PV, for example. The question then, to make this pragmatic, is what is the state of the project? Can you guys chat into me? At point X, what is the state of the project? Can you just tell me it is over budget and ahead of schedule, or over budget and behind schedule? Just chat into me, whatever you can make of it. But Ashish, going back to your question about 7-12, this is a cumulative display of actual cost, okay? Let me give you a very basic example of how the cost buildup could occur. So at point A, your earned value is, let's say, 750, okay? Your planned value, let's say, is 500, and your actual cost, let's say, is 300 at point A, okay? All right, so that is how you will read these numbers. You need to know that at point A, you got 3 different values, and they could all be different things, all right? But let me check your chats, because I'm curious to know if everybody got my statement. At point X, what is the state of the project? At point X, earned value is the black line, planned value is the blue line, and actual cost is the red line. Tell me. Tell me. Come on. I'm not getting enough chats. You guys gonna bed? You guys trick or treating? What are you doing? This is your treat. This right here is your treat, folks. In your world of earned value management, a red balloon being carried by a clown is symbolic of earned value. Some of you going to trick or treat. Are you kidding me? This is your trick. This is your treat. So you better be paying attention. Your buddy Phil is here trying to help you. You ain't chatting into me. What's the matter? All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to address a few chats. Shri says, when to use which BAC formula? So Shri, there's only one BAC formula. Your BAC is the summation of all the planned values on the project. BAC is always the addition of all the planned values, okay? Andrea says, over budget and behind schedule. Devon says, graph shows over budget. Shri says, ahead of schedule and over budget. Andrea said, I stated wrong. Dara says, over budget and behind schedule. Hakeem says, under budget and ahead of schedule. That is the first correct chat. Thank you, Hakeem. Great job. Kevin says, under budget. That's right. Shri says, I meant under budget and ahead of schedule. That's correct. Evie is king. Good. So, folks, let me show you what is going on here. Okay, let's zoom in nice and big and let's see. So what you can glean from this, and let me use a very fine line here. So what you can glean from this line, this black line, is above everything else. It's above. Okay? Think about it. It's above everything else. It's above The blue line, what did we say the blue line was? Let's take a look. The blue line is PV, okay? So this is at this point. Remember, we're talking about this point right here. So that is EV. EV is above everything else. PV is next. And last is AC. Now, what we can infer from this, if EV is greater than your AC, that means you spent $500, but you got $550 of work accomplished. That's good. That means you are under budget. You see how you have to flip the realization? That line being above everything else, one, if it's above AC, it means you are under budget. You got $550 worth of work done and you only spent $500. Or you got your 500K Bugatti or whichever car you bought and you only spent $10,000. Isn't that good? Isn't it good that your EV is above the AC? To give you a pragmatic example, it is a good thing. It is a good thing. Okay? So you got 500K worth of work and you only spent 10K. Or in my example here, the lines are closer, of course. So we could say, I spent $500 and I got $550 out. That's what it means. That's the interpretation, you see? So that is how you look at these graphs. If EV is on top of everything else meaning PV and AC, you're good all round. You're under budget and ahead of schedule. So it takes some getting used to get the right lingo, okay? Under budget is good. Ahead of schedule is good, okay? And it's not that dramatic. It's not that bad, the variance. I mean, if the variance was massive, then management might be very concerned. But it's not too bad, all right? So the first thing, folks, the first statement here that you're going to make, you're going to say, I'm under budget, under budget. It's kind of like an oxymoron. If the EV is above everything else, or if the EV is above AC in particular, you are under budget. If EV is on top, you're under budget. Makes sense? But if it's below, you're over budget. Okay? You always want EV. Remember, EV is king. You always want EV to be either equal to everything else or above slightly, but you don't want EV to be below because EV is king. All right? The next one here, the next line, the red line, which is actual cost, or the blue line, I beg your pardon, which is PV. Let's talk about the blue line. So let me color code this for you just to make sure we're in the zone here. So we're talking about the red line when we talk about that, because actual cost is the red line. Now we're going to talk about the blue line in particular, okay? And if we take a look at the blue line is also under the EV line. So we could say EV is greater than PV. In other words, I planned to get, let's say, I planned to get $490 worth of work done, but I got $550 worth of work done. See that? And that's good. I planned to get $490 done, but I got $550. I got $60 more work than I planned accomplished. So you are ahead, see, of schedule. And this is good. This is good. Definitely good. Okay? Shri, look, that's why we're here, you know? That's why we're doing what we're doing, and we're trying to get to perfection. So well done in finding
any gaps. You know, it's always good to find gaps. And honestly, on the exam, seriously, folks, the exam just throws people for a loop, because on the exam, think about it, the way you're thinking now is greatly slowed down in many instances. For some people, the adrenaline kicks them into a different state, but for most people, they're so paranoid of the exam that they actually slow down on the test. So doing all of this stuff is going to help you to narrow down, you know, what exactly is happening. All right. So I hope that helps you. Ashish, that was a great question. Can I ask you guys one more? Let me give you one more to kick the tires. Okay. One more. Let's kick the tires here, and let's make sure we truly understand what we just looked at. So let me erase that and oops, come back. And let me give you, okay, let's talk about at point. Let me give you a different point to look at here. Let's look at point. Let's look at point Y. Okay? Hopefully you guys are going to ace this one. Look at point Y. You can see the state of the project. You can see what's going on. Tell me the state of the project at point Y. At point Y, what is the state of the project?
All right, chat into me, folks. I'm waiting. You know, this is a very collaborative and interactive session. We've already blown past the 1 hour, 15-minute mark. So I told you it was going to be 2 hours. That's how you got to roll with earned value. It takes time. It takes time to talk about money. Lots and lots of time. I can tell you that. All right, I'm getting in some chats. Kevin says over budget, over schedule, over budget, behind schedule, says Ashish. Devon says over budget and over schedule. Hakeem says behind schedule and over budget. Shri says ahead of schedule and over budget. Okay, so let's take a look at what the answer actually is. I'm going to give you some overarching theories, folks. And I think this will help you. If I hardwire these into your subconscious mind, this will be very helpful. Any scenario. Why am I carrying this thing? I need to drop it. I think it's because Pimpy is occupying my space where I put it. You want to say hello, Pimpy? Say hello to the great people who are on this call. Let them know that you appreciate them. Hello. I'm not very happy. I'm not very happy. Okay. Pimpy has something to say. And Pimpy, can you say what you had to say?
I'm very happy on the call because there will be no excuse on the exam.
Why do you have to be so foreboding? Look, get back to your corner, you. Look, I apologize. He just gets a little bit excited when we have guests. Pimpy, I'm going to confine you to your corner. I gave you a chance and you blew it. Okay. So, this is what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by Pimpy. I'm going to give you guys some overarching concepts to help you, okay? Anytime the earned value line is below
AC or PV, you are not on target. Anytime the EV line is below the actual cost line or the planned value line, you are not on target. And you are not doing well in the sense of well. Okay? You are not on target or doing well. In other words, you are over budget or you are behind schedule. So the EV line, which I showed you guys, let's go back to it. The EV line is the black line. Anytime you see it below, let me zoom in, you see that it's below right here. You see that? At this point, this is your EV. This is under. Look at the dynamic. It is under. Okay. The red line is cost. It is over budget. So it's kind of an oxymoron. It is over budget, but it is behind the schedule. Okay? So it is behind schedule. This is your PV. You can see it is behind. You got a problem. You see? You got a variance here. You got this variance. That is how much work you need to do. So that is your schedule variance right there. You see that? That's your schedule variance. If you take a look at this, you got a variance, you got that cost variance going on, and it's not in favor of the earned value. See? So anytime your earned value line is under PV or under AC, it means you have issues. Okay? And those issues are summarized by you observing those variances. You got a schedule variance which is negative. You got a cost variance which is negative. To put some sensibility into this, we could say, for example, let me just make this blue. We could say, oh, at this point, PV is 1,000. Okay? And then at this point, still in the schedule, at this point in the schedule, the EV is 800. And at this point in the schedule, we could say actual cost is, let's say, 900. Let's say 900. So, to convert this into real terms, you plan to get $1,000 worth of work done at that point. Remember, we're talking about point Y. So this is point Y. At point Y, oh, let me just put it somewhere else. Point Y, this point right here, you planned to get $1,000 worth of work done, but you only got 800. It's not good. You got $800 worth of work done and you spent $900. So you're $100 over and you are $200 behind schedule. That is what those mean, folks. So understanding these graphs, I know we've spent quite some time on them, but this is a very, very useful piece of information for anyone that's struggling, because trust me, these on the exam, they could present nightmares for some people. And some people will get them wrong because they haven't really narrowed it down. You need to be 100% sure. Anytime my earned value line is under, I am in trouble. Anytime my earned value line is on top of AC, I'm good. Anytime my EV line is on top of AC, that means I'm under budget. Anytime my EV line is on top of PV, that means I'm ahead of schedule. So it's the cost. You got to flip that, under budget. Under budget is when you're on top of the line, the AC line, and all of that. So I'm hoping for those of you who have been struggling with this area, I am hoping that this makes a little bit of sense to you. And I kind of went into a bit more detail because I saw some folks were struggling with the answer, okay? So someone said over budget, over schedule, over budget, behind schedule. I know what you meant behind schedule means you know, yeah, you're not ahead of schedule. I don't know what you meant by over schedule, but you know, you're either ahead of schedule or you're behind. If you said over schedule, it gives me concern. So you want to use ahead of schedule, behind schedule, over budget, under budget. Okay? Okay. So Ashish, thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Shri. Thank you, Devon. I'm glad this helps because at the end of the day, the reason why I'm doing this is to help people. Too many people struggling with earned value and wanting to blow past it, like they're in a drive-through. So I'm hoping that we, are able to do this. Okay? All right. So let us progress a little bit further. And we're going deeper here. We're going into the dark zone. This is where people get lost. We don't want anyone to get lost. So again, I am going deliberately slow to make sure that people do not get lost. So let us go back to our PowerPoint here. Just to make sure that we are familiar with all of these terms. I'm going to take myself out of the shot. If you guys want to take a screenshot and save the multiple formulas, I'm going to get myself out of the shot, and you can do that because this is a good way of you remembering. You can just take a screenshot and take out your smartphone, take out your smartphone and take a snap of this stuff, because remembering all that you need to know could be helpful in you ensuring you really know it. Okay? Now I know there's the horrendous page in the PMBOK guide. I think it's table 7 what? Is it 7-1 or 7-2? Table that makes people cringe is table 7-1. Yeah, this is a prettier picture than 7-1, folks. Alright, so take the screenshot. Those of you who are on the course, you might have encountered this. I also have a video titled The 4 Faces of EAC. So you might want to, go watch that, at some point. But this is where we're going. We're going into this zone where we unravel everything. So let's go. The metrics we've talked about so far are as follows. Okay? I am hoping you know that. Now, I want to go a step further to reiterate something that I have spoken about so many times. It's very characteristic of my teaching earned value. No one else tells it to you like this. But what I tell my students, and Devon pretty much anticipated what I was going to say, but it is earned value is king. Why do I say earned value is king? Because earned value is the boss. Earned value is the boss of the whole show. Didn't you know? Earned value is running the show. Right? You want to talk about the old-time Boston gangsters? EVM takes no prisoners. Earned value takes no prisoners. Earned value, as they say, earned value don't play. Earned value is a persona. Earned value could be happy on a good day when you put it first, but on a bad day, it gets a little bit sinister. Have a sinister smile. So you forgot to put me first. I'm going to teach you a lesson, says earned value. Why do I say earned value is king? Earned value comes first in all of those formulas. So let's replace earned value earned value's hat with a crown to give you a visual. And earned value gets mad if you forget to put earned value first. So those are the rubies on the crown. It's got a big head. It's got quite an ego. Earned value has got ego issues. So let's take a look. We've got CPI, we've got SPI, we've got SV, and we've got CV. In all of these, folks, every single one of them, we need to put earned value first. For those of you who haven't watched my video on earned value, the simple way of remembering all of this stuff is earned value comes first. Earned value is king, okay? It's a simple statement. I took 3 minutes of your time to draw that ridiculous visual so that you would never forget. Earned value is king. It always comes first in all of these formulas. If we are talking about an index, we divide. So put division where you have an index, and where we're talking about a variance, you subtract. Boom! I just gave you half of the equations. Easy. Earned value is king. Index, divide, variance, subtract. Now we're going to go a step further here. I'm going to show you a mnemonic to remember anything beginning with S. Someone else's problem. You don't want to be involved in someone else's problem. That's easy to remember. So SEP, someone else's problem. SEP, same thing down here. And the P is for PV, planned value. So anytime we're talking about the schedule, you got to remember the schedule is the plan. You know, people say project plan. Well, they're talking about schedule, really. The schedule is the plan is the schedule. That should be your mantra. You'll never forget. Someone else's problem, SEP. Easy. The next acronym, Child Protective Services, may not be very impressed. But anyway, I don't care. It's just an acronym or a mnemonic. Children eat. They eat very little, right? No, that wouldn't make sense. They eat a lot. Children eat a lot. I can hear the cries of horror of my kids if they were watching this. But children do eat a lot. Let's be honest, they do. So children eat a lot, okay? And that is how you remember your earned value metrics. Earned value is king. Just remember South Carolina. You ever been there? Greenville? I have. So SCSC, South Carolina. So good, you had to say it twice. SCSC. Okay? And the rest is quite straightforward. So if you can remember these metrics, you can remember the earned value graphs, you can remember the interpretation of the graphs, the interpretation of greater than 1, less than 1, equal to 0, less than 0, all that stuff. If you can, you are just piling up knowledge ammo to take out Pimpy. Who isn't here and not very happy at the moment. He's lying upside down and looking very mad. But anyway, that is how you would memorize these things, folks. All right, someone else's problem, children eat a lot, variances, subtract, indices, divide, okay? And the rest is quite straightforward. So I hope that helps you with the overall remembrance of this stuff. The last slide, you want to see the last slide? Let me go back to the last slide. So that one, this one, hold on a second. Is it the one where I was showing all of the pieces that you get from the metrics? Is it this one? Let me go to a big view. I think I've got a bigger view of it. Do I? Do I have a bigger view? I thought I did. Oh, hang on. This one. I think this is what you're looking. Yeah, I think that's what you're looking for. Right? Ashish, is that what you're looking for? Is it that one? I think so. Anyway, let's continue. So all of these metrics, folks, you know them now. Okay? We're going to go into deeper waters. Okay? So this just reiterates stuff that I've talked about. Earned value is king. They all start with EV. Variances use subtraction. Indices use division. If it starts with an S, think S for schedule, plan value. If it starts with a C, think C for cost, which is actual cost. Now there's one piece of all of this stuff I did not show you, and I should after this slide. This is another summarized slide. I showed you this earlier in some way. Greater than 1 in the indices ahead or less than 1 behind where it comes to SPI, equal to 1 on target. Cost performance index, greater than 1, under budget, less than 1 bad, over budget, equals 1 on target. Schedule variance, greater than 0 ahead, less than 0 behind, equals 0 on target. Cost variance, greater than 0, under budget, less than 0, over budget, equals 0 on target. Okay? So, if CPI is greater than 1, that's what it means, and so on. Okay? That's the slide, and that's the summary. Okay? Schedule variance, same thing. You know that if it's less than 0, it's awful. Greater than 0 is good, but let it not be so much greater than 0 that management thinks you padded or you lied. Okay? Same with the variances. Now, you guys should be able to answer this. If it's equal to 0.5 SPI, is it good? Is it bad? Is it something else? CV equals $5. Good, bad, or something else. Okay? So I expect that as you look at these, you can answer them at this point conveniently. This is like the course 202. Let's call it 202. Okay? You look at a number, you know what it means. Not only do you know that's bad, but you know I'm only 50% efficient schedule-wise, or I'm under budget if I have a CV of $5, or if I have an SV of minus $50, that means I am behind schedule by $50. CPI equals to 1.01, it means that I am under budget. SPI equals to 3.09, that is not good. There may be a problem. It looks too good. Sometimes when things look too good, you got to ask, why do we look so good? Why do we look that good? Okay? So let me take my shot out of the slide so you guys can see the full picture, all right? SPI equals 0.65 is blatantly bad. That means you plan to get something done and you only got 0.65 of it done. All right? Cost forecasts come up, and this is where we talk about EACs, and goodness, EACs, there's still a lot to talk about. Here's the original slide I showed you. You got to know all this stuff. Here's this again, just reminding you, you need to know all of this. You need to know all of this. And of course, all of this and the implications. Okay? All right. Here's a very basic, cheap problem that I expect everyone to be able to solve. Can you guys chat into me the SPI, CPI, SV, and CV? And if you can just chat them in all at once, just to show me that you're all over this stuff. You know, Phil, I don't even need a calculator. I can do this with my eyes closed. Do you want to chat into me what these answers are mega quick? And just let me know that, hey, I've got this down pat and this is no threat to me. Because you could get basic stuff like this on the exam. Okay? So I want you to type them in complete with dollar signs where necessary, or lack thereof where not necessary. Okay? Let me give you a minute and 12 seconds. PMI's proverbial duration for answering a question. 1 minute, 12 seconds. Let's go. Excuse me. All right, we're about running out of time. I am going to stop the clock. Okay, time to stop the clock, folks. So let's see, I got a 0.4 for SPI. Oh, just one chat? Just one chat? A 0.5 for CPI. That's correct. What about CV and SV, folks? CV and SV. What have you got for that? -6 and -4, says Hakeem. Andrea says, okay, 0.4 for the SPI. Okay, that looks about right. Duras says a -6 million and a okay. Hakeem, that looks correct. Ashish, that looks right for the SV. Good. Andrea says CV is -4. Okay. All right. So that looks about right for the most part. So 4 divided by 10 gives you a 0.4 for the SPI. 4 divided by 8 gives you a 0.5 for the CPI. And 4 minus 10 gives you -6 for the schedule variance. And 4 minus 8, I think that's one. I wasn't sure of one or two of the chats I saw, but that gives you a -4. So let's take a look. If these were your answers, you're in the zone. And I want to say well done if those were your answers. Let's take a look at the schedule variance, -6 million and -4 million. Note where you have the dollar signs in the variances, but in the indices you don't have a dollar sign, okay? So well done. If you got those right, well done. Just understand the interpretation of these, all right? All right, so budget at completion. We kind of mentioned this earlier on. We're going back to talk about the BAC. And I think I should speed on from this into some harder stuff. Harder stuff. I've been giving you baby food. Let's go to the hard stuff. Someone says, Phil, they call that baby food. All right, we're going to the harder stuff. So let me blow past some of these. I've shared these on YouTube before. This is, okay, here we go. So let's go into this scenario here. This is a scenario that is going to bring it home for everyone. This is going to bring home the EACs and the BACs. So you really want to pay close attention to this. Okay? Don't give up at this point. Don't get off the call. Don't get off the call. Look, this is where it's going to get really intense. So I advise you, do not get off the call. If someone's calling you to come and have a trick or a treat, tell them this is my treat. This right here, okay? It's about to get more intense. Earned value management is easy. Don't be scared of it, says Herman the painter. Herman the painter has been asked to paint this wall, and we took a look at this scenario in the beginning. What is the BAC? Can anyone chat in what the budget at completion is? I told you guys, budget at completion can be calculated by summing up the cumulative plan values. So I hope you remember that. Okay, I really hope you do. All right. If you do me a favor, chat in. Chat in. Oh, it's going until we drop, Andrea. The intent was to get done within the next 30 minutes. But if we run out of gas, we're going to go fill up and come back. We need to get rid of earned value tonight. Everything in earned value has to be spoken about tonight. I'm here for the long haul. Hey, I just got done with a 3-hour boot camp. Shri was on the boot camp. But I ain't getting off this call until I kill this thing, all right? So $40 is the BAC. Very good. Very, very good. That is the BAC. All right. So let's move along. I'll try to make this quick, okay? The wall needs to be painted. It will be done in 4 days. We're going to do a quarter of the wall a day. I hope you guys get that, okay? BAC is $40. Each day, the painter will complete a quarter of the work. So we've pretty much established that. By day 4, all the work will be completed. So watch this. This is a very important idea about earned value. You need to be able to identify the planned values for all of the time periods. Okay? Planned value for day 1 is $10. Planned value for day 2, 3, and 4, $10 each. You see that? I did not call it the budget at completion for day 1. That would be improper earned value speak. The proper speak for time phases is planned value. Now, except someone is trying to throw you off or they don't really understand earned value properly, BAC is BAC. Don't tell me BAC for day 1. Tell me BAC for the entire project. Tell me PV for time periods. Does that make sense? Okay. So by the end of day 1, I will have painted a quarter of the wall. At least that's the plan. Okay. Enter day 1. At the end of day 1, Herman says, phew, I was really tired. But I got all the work done as scheduled. Okay. So all the work was done as scheduled. But let's take a look at what the spend actually was. So let me break this down for you. Let us see how well Herman did in terms of the payments. He said at the end of day 1, 100% of the work was accomplished. Do you remember the formula for EV? EV is PV times percent complete. Okay? We could also have another formula that says from the perspective of BAC, earned value is percent complete of the BAC times the percent complete. Percent complete of the BAC times the BAC. So you're looking at this image here and you can see if you're looking at PV alone, you could say, oh, 100% of the PV for day 1 was done. But you could say 1/4 of the BAC was done. You see where I'm going? So you can calculate by saying, oh, 100% of the PV is done for day 1. Or you could say a quarter of the BAC, 25% of the BAC is done. You get what I'm saying? I hope you do. So PV is 10, we already know that. 10 times 100% will give you what? It will give you EV is $10, okay? So EV is $10, just taking a look at the image, okay? Let me throw in a few other metrics because a lot of people ask the question, oh, how do I know AC? How do I know PV? The PMI will give you either clues or they'll give you these numbers on the exam, okay? So we've got AC given, and the question is, what is SPI, CPI, CV, and SV for day 1? Now let me give you a very quick way of knowing this. Here's the trick. Here's the trick. If PV, AC, and actual cost are all the same, did I say that right? PV, EV, and AC, if they're all the same, you're going to have ones for the indices and 0 for the variances. Ones and zeros. Okay, so in this example, you got PV, EV, and AC all 1. So you're going to have ones and zeros when you apply the formula. Ones and zeros. Okay, you're going to have SPI is 1, CPI is 1, SV is 0, and stuff like that. Okay, you're going to have zeros and ones. All right, let's take a look at day 2. Poor Herman is unable to work as planned. Hours into day 2, a leak comes from the bathroom upstairs. He's running behind schedule. Let's see what this does to his work performance for day 2. So let me take myself out of the shot so you guys can read what exactly is there. Herman says, that silly tap messed up all of my work for day 2. Poor Herman. He's not very happy, obviously. Not a happy bunny. So if you take a look at what happened on day 2, you can see, if you focus on just what was supposed to have been done on day 2, you can eyeball it and see that he only got a particular percentage of the work done. Now let's say that is meant to show you 3 out of the 4 squares. In other words, he only got 3/4 of day 2's work accomplished. Now, did you guys know that when you talk about earned value, I'm not sure if you knew this, but when you talk about earned value, you can hone in to just one day or one time period. You could see your performance for Q1 using earned value metrics. Oh, SPI for Q1 was 0.9. SPI for Q2 is 1. We did better in Q2. Now you could say cumulative performance for Q1 and Q2 together. Aha, that is where we are beginning to head towards EACs and TCPI, because those look at cumulative effects on the project. But for now, we're going to hone into just day 2. Okay, so forget about day 1 where we had ones and zeros, and let's laser focus into just day 2. Okay, let's laser focus into just day 2. If we laser focus into just day 2, we see that the actual cost is given implicitly. For example, on the exam, someone could say, oh, $50 was spent on day 2. Well, that's actual cost. So from this, we can glean, oh, actual cost is $10, because it says $10 was spent at the end of day 2. Okay. What was the planned value for day 2? We already know. We saw the whole plan. We know it's $10. Okay. How much work was completed from the image? 75%, or 3 squares out of the 4. So what is the earned value for day 2? Can you guys chat into me so that I know you know how to calculate earned value for just day 2 alone, okay? Not the entire project, not cumulative, but just for day 2. let's say day one is Monday. This is just for Tuesday. Forget about Monday. This is just for Tuesday. Can you guys tell me what you get? What do you get? Just day two. Nothing else. Just day two, nothing else. I'm going to mute my microphone so that I can focus in and hear what you have to say and make sure you can hear me. Because at this point, I'm not getting any chats. Ah, there you are. Thank you for the chats. I see them. $7.50. Supriya, welcome to the conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Dara. Thank you, Andrea. Andrea says $7.50 with a big old dollar sign, and so did everyone else. And that means we are in good standing and we can proceed. Very good. Very, very good. It's always important to make sure that we totally understand the picture, okay? So this is where we're going to step it up a tiny little bit. The earned value for just day two is going to be planned value times percent complete, $10 times 75% to give $7.50, as you guys already know. So at this point, you should know what is the SPI, CPI, SV, and CV for day two. You should be able to deduce this from the formulas, okay? Now, I don't want to waste time because I have a feeling you guys already know this. So I have a feeling you know the SPI and CPI even without using a calculator. Can you prove me right? Can you type in the SPI, CPI, SV, CV? Let me make sure that you actually know it. All right? And while you do that, my lousy sidekick will do some monkey tricks for you.
What do you call a project manager without a schedule?
I don't know. What do you call him? Or what do you call her?
A disaster waiting to happen.
That's so lame, Pimpy. Go to your corner. You don't impress me. You don't impress me. Let's see if our friends impress us more than you. Lame. All right. Tell me, folks. What are the metrics? The metrics. Tell me the metrics. Tell me the metrics. Or maybe you want to say hello to my little friend, the baby. Hello. I'm not scared of earned value no more. Haha, you don't convince me. You still look scared as ever. Seems like we need to finish this and then you won't be scared of earned value no more. Come on, come on, come on, folks. Type in the metrics. Okay, folks have gone to bed. All right, I'm just going to show you the answers since everyone has tuned out for the night or gone to eat some tricks or treats. I told you this is your trick and treat. This is your EVM trick or treat. Are you going to chat in someone? All right, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. Uh-oh. Are you going to type in the right answer or not? It seems like someone from Pimpy's world is holding baby hostage. Are you going to help baby? Baby has been held hostage. Help. Uh-oh, we've got some sinister PMP being that has got baby in a vice. Help, help baby. Type in, hey, if you want to save baby from this ghoulish creature, you got to type in the right answer. Type in the correct answer. Quick, quick, quick. Thank you very much. I got 0.75, 0.75. Thank you, Shri. After such a hard day of working and being in the course, you're still going strong. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Andrea. Fantastic. You guys are just so awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So this is a treat specifically for people who have stayed this long. You know I love to reward people for being in the zone. All right. Now, if you are still watching at this period, I want you to do me a favor and chat in, or send in rather. Don't chat in, send in an email, okay? Send in an email, okay, to support@praizion.com. Anyone who isn't watching at this time isn't going to get this treat. But because you guys are so magnanimous and so awesome, I'm going to give you a little treat. I'm going to give you a little something, something, okay? So I want you to write into support@praizion.com, and I want you to say, based on Phil's something, something, and you can spell it however you like. Based on Phil's something, something, I'm looking for a little something, something. Just send that to support@praizion.com. We're going to give you a little something, something. Seriously, a little something, something to help you along your merry way as you prep for the exam. Okay? Just type it in. Send it to support@praizion.com. I'm going to reward you for staying on the call this long. Okay? Send in an email to support@praizion.com based on Phil's promise for a little something, something. I'm looking for my cut or whatever that is. And you can be as sure as ever, we're going to send you a little something from one of our goodie bags, okay? So do that, okay? Thank you for your participation so far. I like it when people participate when they're serious, and I like to reward that. All right, so you guys were right on the money. You got all the metrics, fantastic. 0.75 for SPI and CPI, and a -250 for both of those other metrics. Fantastic. Awesome. We're going to take it up to the next level. Now, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, okay? We need to talk about the forecasting elephant in the room. The forecasting elephant in the room is where a lot of people get stuck. A lot of people get stuck at this juncture, and we need to address it. We need to iron it out. We need to polish it up. Big time. So we're going to be talking about the ETC, the EAC, the VAC, and the TCPI. I thought I heard Pimpy breathing a little bit hard. Do you hear that? Do you hear him breathing hard? Okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about these things. ETC, EAC, VAC, TCPI. This is where we're going in our next level of discussions, okay? So, back to this image. This is where you need to put on an advanced earned value thinking cap. This is where it gets deep, folks, okay? So, EACs, they are a measure of how much more money do I need to complete this if I compare it to my BAC. So if you look at your BAC, your EAC will tell you how much more money you need. For example, let's say your BAC is 40, but your EAC is 60, that scenario tells you you're going to need $20 more. You're going to need $20 more. $40 isn't enough. You see what I'm saying? So let me give you a very practical view of the world concerning these metrics. Let's go over to our whiteboard. And over here, this is the picture. If your BAC is $40, but your EAC is $60, that means at the end of the project, when all is said and done, you are going to be spending $60 instead of $40. And that, my friends, is not very good. To be spending $60 instead of $40, it means you are going to be over budget by $20. Now that is called the variance at completion. Another metric that I need to show you, okay? And the way we calculate the variance at completion is by the formula VAC is equal to BAC minus EAC. You see that? Variance at completion is equal to the budget at completion minus the estimate at completion. B comes before E in the alphabet. Okay? Just remember that. B comes before E. A lot of people say, oh, I can't remember if it's B or if it's E first. Just remember B comes before E in the alphabet. B comes before E in the formula. So your variance at completion in that scenario in dollars would be $40 minus $60, and that will give you a minus $20. And that is how you apply the formula. If you have a minus, you're going to be over. If you have a plus, you're going to be under. Okay? So VAC, variance at completion, is also one of the sacred cows. Also one of the sacred cows of the PMI. Don't forget that. Okay? Let me check chats really quick. Shri says, Phil, do you have a video on project? Oh, I got your email, Shri. So there's no particular video, but I'm just going to scramble it around. It's largely the same. There are just a few differences in the additional documents, or they change what they're called. Vidrine Jones, thank you. Looking forward to the something. You know your buddy Phil is always going to sort you out. He's always going to be your dealer to deal you some really great stuff that's going to get you into the PMBOK high zone. You got to get high on PMBOK, you know. That's my mantra. If you want to get high on anything, get high on PMBOK. I'm going to get you your fix. Don't worry. Your fix, you're going to get your fix in the mail. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. You know, I don't play. When I say some, a little, there ain't nothing little about this some I'm going to give you. You're going to be surprised because it's going to get you into the zone to bring that PMP home. That's what it's going to do to you. All right. So I hope this makes sense about EAC, BAC, and VAC. I hope this all makes sense to you. Okay? Good. So let's go back to our little scenario here. Herman the painter, and let's see what is going to happen in this journey of forecasting. So what were the CPI, SPI, CV, and SV? You know, it was zeros and ones. Those of you who've been here following zeros and ones. Now this is where it gets a little bit different. The question is, what is the EAC if work continues as budgeted? Do you guys know the answer to this? If EAC is based on work continuing as budgeted, what do we end up with? This could be a little bit concerning if you've not really thought about EACs. But if you look at it from a pragmatic fashion, it's going to be business as usual. It's going to be, it's going to be the same old dollar amount because it's zeros and ones. You get what I'm saying? Zeros and ones. Let me show you something here, okay? You can see in the image that Herman has completed a quarter. Now, there is a formula that is used for EAC if the work continues as budgeted. Just think about it. If the work continues as budgeted, he's going to be good because he's doing well and he's right on target. So if work continues as budgeted, the question is this. Let me go over to my whiteboard here. But the question is this. You see, if work continues as budgeted, think about it. Think about it. Work continues as budgeted. If he is done with this quarter, he's done with this quarter. The question is, how much is he going to use for these remaining days? And what will the total of day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4 be? If everything is fine and dandy, it's going to be $40. It's a no-brainer. If he's doing well, and if he continues as budgeted, this is going to be $10 as budgeted. This is going to be $10 as budgeted. And this is also going to be $10 as budgeted. We're going to have a scenario where he spends an additional $30. Remember, he spent $10 already, so it's going to be $40. But that is not how the formula is, okay? You put it on your advanced hat. This is where we take it up a notch, okay? All right. PMI reverse engineers this concept. It is a reverse engineered concept in that you're not just thinking about, oh, then it's going to cost me day 2 plus day 3 plus day 4. No, no, no. This is how PMI approaches it. And that is why I say it needs some kind of advanced thinking hat. PMI says, if I have a BAC of $40, then if work continues as budgeted, the remaining work, which I'm going to call the polka dotted blue area, the polka dotted blue area. Let's make this a polka dotted blue area, okay? The polka dotted blue area, how much will it cost to complete the polka dotted blue area? This is how the formula is set up. It is set up with the concept of the polka dot area is going to be the BAC minus this piece we've done, which is the EV. BAC minus the earned value is the polka dot area. The 3 squares that are polka dot areas, that is the remaining work to complete, also known as the estimate to complete in dollars. You see that? The estimate to complete is how much more money do I need to complete the job from where I am right now. Right now, I've spent $10 and I've gotten 25% of the work done. How much do I need to complete the remaining 75%? If work continues as budgeted, PMI says in order to get this, you need to know how much you have budgeted and you need to subtract the work done, the earned value from it. So this formula, folks, if you can wrap your mind around this formula and say, my estimate to complete is equal to the overall budget minus the earned value when I am basing this on work being performed at the budgeted rate. And this is why a lot of people struggle with EAC. They cannot wrap their minds around BAC minus EV. If you cannot wrap your mind around BAC minus EV, we might as well spend all day, all night talking about the logic behind it. You see. Another example is this drink I have here that I've been drinking quite greedily. Let's say the full cup is 8 ounces. Let's say I drank 3 ounces out of the cup. I drank 3 ounces out of the cup. How much left do I have to drink? It is the total amount of the cup, 8 ounces, minus what I have drunk. The same way with this example, folks. Your estimate to complete, in order to get the 5, you need to say it's the full budget of 8 ounces minus how much I've done. I've drunk 3 ounces. So what is left to be drunk, to be completed, is 5 ounces. So it's a reverse engineering of the simple concept of, oh, I can look in the cup and see how much is drunk. But no, on the exam, you need to know the formula. BAC minus EV is ETC based on the work being performed at the budgeted rate. Okay? So I don't just want to spit out a formula. I want to explain the logic behind the formula. Okay? So folks, if we go back to our image here, what is the EAC if work continues as budgeted? Okay? The formula for this, based on what I just showed you, is the EAC is going to be equal to the actual cost plus the budget at completion minus the EV. And in this case, the BAC minus the EV is 30. We can see that. So it's 10 plus 30. It's still the same as the BAC. Chat into me and tell me if you understand this, because this is where a lot of people get lost. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you, all of you who did that. All right? Does this all make sense to you, folks? Does it make sense? Okay, I hope it does. I hope you're not lost. Okay. All right, fair enough. Let's continue. So if you got that, we can progress. The next scenario is, what is the estimate at completion if the CPI stays constant till project end? Now I want to show you how to tackle this, okay? So I'm going to go to the whiteboard again. This might require a little bit of digestion for some people. So if you're lost, you can tell me the specific place you're lost and I'll be happy to explain. But I want to explain to you the formula behind this. So the first formula was EAC equals actual cost plus your budget at completion minus your earned value. And this is based on work being performed at the budgeted rate. Okay? Now this formula is all well and good, but we need to take this formula to the next level, which is what PMI referred to in the PMBOK guide in table 7-1. So for those of you who haven't really honed in on table 7-1, this is on page 267, okay? So I want to call your attention to page 267. If you're looking at table 7-1 and you go to the third row from the bottom, you can see under the equation column, EAC equals BAC divided by CPI. And it says, if the CPI is expected to be the same for the remainder of the project, EAC can be calculated using EAC equals BAC divided by CPI. But they don't really tell you how they got that formula, and that is what I want to explain right now. So let's take a look. Let me explain how they got this formula. This formula is derived from the very first one I showed you, and that's why, unlike PMI is just dunking you into BAC divided by CPI, I start off with this one instead, because this is the overarching formula that everything else is pretty much based upon, okay? So if you look at this formula right here, based on work being performed at the budgeted rate, we're now going to take this formula and we're now going to make it be based on the CPI being consistent for the duration of the project, okay? So why don't we take this formula, EAC equals AC plus BAC minus EV, watch this, divided by CPI. We've basically taken that same formula and we've said here, if the CPI is constant, let me use a different color here, if CPI is constant till project end. Okay? Then we can divide the right-hand side by CPI. Now, those of you who know about this, you probably deciphered this right here, BAC minus EV, is really your estimate to complete. I mentioned this a few minutes ago. That is really your ETC. You see that? BAC minus EV, if work is completed at the budgeted rate, is your ETC. But now we're saying, we can't just say work is being completed at the budgeted rate. We're going to base this on our cost performance. If your cost performance is 1, introducing CPI is not a biggie. But if your cost performance is less than 1, then the problems are going to be very apparent. So let us solve this equation down and see what it gives us. If we solve the equation down, folks, we're going to end up getting this. And let's hone in so we can really focus on what we're doing here. Let's hone into it. Okay? So we're going to have EAC is equal to actual cost plus, let's break it down now, BAC divided by CPI minus EV divided by CPI. It's simple. Don't worry, we're going somewhere. I promise you I'm going to get you back on the wagon, okay, if you're lost. All right? I hope that makes sense. Any questions? Okay, seems like we're good. Let us continue. Good. All right. I just want to make sure I don't lose anyone. So if there are questions, please do not hesitate to ask the question. Okay? Good. So let us solve this down further. I'm going to take this up and continue solving. So we're going to have EAC is equal to the actual cost plus the BAC divided by CPI minus earned value divided by, what is CPI? Just remember that CPI is earned value divided by our actual cost. So this is really earned value divided by EV over AC. That is really what it boils down to. See? Now, if we keep solving, we're going to end up with actual cost plus BAC divided by CPI minus, guess what? AC is now going to become that is really what it becomes. EV, I meant. EV. So you're really going to have EV divided by EV times AC. That is really what this becomes. Because remember, the CPI is at the bottom. This right here is CPI. But because it's at the bottom, we're going to end up flipping it such that this cancels this. And at the end of the day, we have a minus AC and a plus AC. Well, you probably figured out those are going to cancel, and we're going to be left with BAC divided by CPI. So I'm showing you all of this. This is your EAC, by the way. I'm showing you all of this so you know how the formula is birthed, so that you do not distance the very first formula, this one. Don't distance this from this. They are pretty much from the same parent. You see? So do not distance BAC based on work being performed at the budgeted rate from EAC, I beg your pardon, based on work being performed at the budgeted rate. Don't distance that from EAC based on your current cumulative CPI. Okay? Very important. Both very important. Okay? And from the same parent. So, if we go back to our PowerPoint here, we apply the formula again. We're going to come out with this, $40. And the final formula that often throws people off is this one. What is the EAC based on both the CPI and the SPI? So let me show you that. And let me go to the whiteboard for that. Now this last formula, well, kind of the last, but not exactly. But this last formula, in a way, last, is the estimate at completion is equal to that very first formula that we talked about. You're always going to have that BAC minus EVs, and that's why I want you to get that into your head first. And if it's based on the current cumulative CPI and SPI, we're going to divide it by the SPI. Remember, we're talking cumulative times CPI, also talking cumulative. And I must say that in this one that we looked at over here, don't forget this is also cumulative, okay? These are all cumulative CPIs and SPIs. that you use for the EAC. All right? So if you do that, you've got all the formulas. EAC based on work being performed at the budgeted rate, EAC based on current cumulative CPI, and EAC based on cumulative CPI and SPI. See that? That's how you do it, folks. You got to know all of your EACs. All of them. Okay? Now, the final one is a no-brainer. But before I show you that, let me show you the workings in our PowerPoint problem here. To round this up, if we substitute the numbers, we're going to get 40 again. But if we introduce day 2, and we talk about cumulative metrics, cumulative means inception to date. So you're no longer looking at day 1 on its own, day 2 on its own. You're looking at day 1 and 2 together when you're doing your EAC. So day 1, if all you've got is day 1, you just use day 1 like we did. But if at the end of day 2, you got these metrics, you have to use them. So we are using the metrics for day 1 and day 2 cumulative. If you use just day 2 on its own, you're going to get the answer wrong. You got to combine them, folks. And that is the big thing about the EACs. It is cumulative. Okay? It's cumulative. So let me change gears here and show you what I'm looking at here. This. So what I'm showing you right now, I've already done the maths for you. I've done SPI, CPI, CVSV, cumulative, day 1 and day 2. There's not enough time for me to quiz you on that, but I hope you get the picture. If you look at day 1 and day 2 together, the PV is 20, right? The AC becomes the addition of day 1 and day 2, 20 as well. The EV becomes 10 plus 17.5, and you get these. Now the task becomes, what is the EAC based on various conditions? So let's take a look at the various conditions here. So let me get up my slides. If work continues as budgeted, use the formula. Simple. 20 plus 40 minus 1750. Boom, 4250. That means if work continues as budgeted, even though we've had a small problem on day 2, if work continues as budgeted, we're going to spend $2.50 for this little area here, $10 here, $10 here. Add that to the actual cost of 20. Makes sense. It makes sense. So this formula just underscores what someone could work out with common sense. If work continues as budgeted, the little square in day 2 is going to cost $2.50. The bigger squares will cost 10 apiece. Makes sense. But the formula just helps you. Just apply the formula and you get it right. Now, what if the CPI stays consistent? Well, the CPI at the moment, cumulative, is 0.875. If we plug that into the formula, we're going to get $45.71. See? That's how you apply it. But you need to remember, we're talking cumulative. Cumulative. That is the key to understanding this next level. All right. What is the EAC based on both CPI and SPI? Plug in the numbers. Cumulative. Don't do day 1 or day 2 on their own. You'll miss it. Cumulative. And if you plug it in cumulative, you're going to get 49.38. Cumulative. All right. So I think one last thing to give you a very good perspective is the final formula. And the final formula is, what is the EAC if your budget at completion number doesn't even make sense anymore? Then that means we need to do a brand new bottom-up ETC. See that? So let me show you what this means. What happens if everything that I budgeted in the past makes no sense anymore and I need to come clean and say, management, I blew it, I got it wrong, I'm going to do a brand new estimate. What do? You do a brand new estimate. So I'm going to show you the final formula for the brand new bottom-up ETC that the PMI talk about on table 7-1. All right, so the formula for an EAC based on a brand new bottom-up ETC is going to be EAC is equal to actual cost plus whatever that brand new bottom-up ETC is. What do we mean by a brand new bottom-up ETC? Well, bottom-up ETC will mean activity 1, activity 2, on and on need to be estimated. And let's say you've got, okay, activity 1 is really $50, activity 2, the estimate to complete it is going to be $70 for the remaining work we've got. This one's going to be $25. This one's going to be $16. This one is going to be $30. That's how you do it. Then you summarize, you sum up everything, and you get your final number. 11, 4, 5, 7, 14, 19. I hope I got it. Yep. Yeah, $191 is my ETC, my brand new bottom-up ETC, because I have gone to the granular levels, calculated everything, and rolled it up to a final total. That, folks, is how you do the final formula I believe our friends at the PMI have put into figure 7, beg your pardon, table 7-1. So if you're taking a look at page 267, you can see the third formula there under the EAC row. It says, if the initial plan is no longer valid, use EAC is equal to AC plus bottom-up ETC. And that is really what they're talking about. That's how you do the EACs, okay? So if you boil it down, let me just show you the image here on the slides. Forecasting based on a new estimate for remaining work. If the assumptions are flawed, there's a huge digression, you need to come clean and say, management, I blew it. My numbers are bogus. This is not reality. Then you do a brand new bottom-up ETC. In this example, I made it 48. And you just add up the brand new bottom-up ETC plus the actual cost. That's how you do it. He says, I don't think my budget even made an ounce of common sense. Yeah, if your budget makes no sense, do a brand new bottom-up ETC for the remaining work. That is exactly what happened here. Okay? Now, the final thing to talk about, and I will leave you in peace, is TCPI, the 2 Complete Performance Index. It's a calculated projection of cost performance that must be achieved on remaining work to meet a specified management goal. If the BAC is no longer viable, a forecasted EAC is computed. If EAC is approved, it supersedes the BAC as the cost performance goal. The formula is pretty much at a very high level. Uh-oh, did I leave you guys at the station, or am I bringing you along? Okay, I am. Good. So the formula is work remaining divided by funds remaining. The TCPI based on the budget at completion has BACs in it. BAC minus EV divided by BAC minus AC. If the TCPI is based on the EAC, then we have BAC divided by BAC minus EV, I beg your pardon, divided by EAC minus AC. I'm obviously hurrying to make it quick. get it over and done with so that you guys who need to go rest can do so. Okay? But let me show you really quick. Let me use the whiteboard here and just show you a little bit more details that will help you regarding the TCPI. Okay? So for TCPI, you just got to remember that it is work remaining divided by funds remaining. If your work remaining is higher than your funds remaining, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. If your work remaining is $12 and you've only got $10 of funds remaining, that's not good. Your TCPI in this case is, it's an index, so there's no dollar sign, is a 1.2. This 1.2 means that in order for you to achieve management's budget objective, in other words, for you to come in on budget, it means that you have to get $1.20 work done out of every dollar. Think about it. Management might push back and say, that's not achievable, you're lying. Especially if you say, oh, I'm good. And they ask, what is your TCPI? And the TCPI is found to be 1.2. That 1.2 tells them Phil's not going to make budget. And they'll tell you to come clean. And coming clean means just ask for more money. Tell us how much that money is, or tell us how much you're going to be over by. It's better we prepare for it than we just arrive at the end of the project and there's this big old blow up. You see, that is the use of TCPI. It's, in my opinion, it's a lie detector test. Now, if you think about this, what happens if your TCPI, work remaining divided by funds remaining, let me move this out of the way. What happens if your TCPI is the work remaining divided by funds remaining, and the tables are turned, and you have, let's say you have $10 work remaining, and you have $20 of funds remaining. That means your TCPI equals 0.5. What does that 0.5 mean? That 0.5 means you are spending $1 and you only need to achieve 50 cents on every dollar, and you will get to management's objective of budget. So that's why I call this a lie detector test. I call it a lie detector test. Okay, let me clean out all of this and let us go to a different topic here where we can actually look at the TCPIs in more detail. So we've got a TCPI based on a BAC, the original budget. In other words, management says, Phil, we're taking a look at your project. Tell us what is the state of your project right now. The TCPI is going to be the budget at completion minus earned value. You see why I keep saying this? This thing right here is a recurring theme. You're going to come across it multiple times. But anyway, the TCPI is going to be budget at completion minus earned value divided by budget at completion minus actual cost. So let's say management does this and they find numbers that show an unsatisfactory performance. They could tell me to come clean and provide additional data or metrics that will help them understand how bad is the project. So let me go to our PowerPoint slides and just show you really quickly how this is done. You guys have done well. We're almost at the end and we're going to be rounding up soon. So going back to this, okay? if we put in the metrics that we just looked at, we just plug them in like straight away. BAC minus EV divided by BAC minus AC. Okay? If we just plug that in, we're going to end up with 1.125. And play, mix and match for your TCPIs based on the BAC or based on the EAC. So now is a good time. I don't just want to show you a bunch of slides. I really want to answer questions that you may have. Do you have questions?